Hi, my name is Sally Caselli. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use Moodle or eLearning at Cairn University. This video tutorial is designed to be used by faculty who are starting with a course from scratch. I will be demonstrating how to use the system to give an overview of how the system works, how to add various components such as resources, PowerPoints, lectures, links to websites, articles, and things of that nature, then how to enhance it by adding assignments to your course and enhancing it also from the visual aspect of the course, and then how to add quizzes, lessons, forums, configure the gradebook, and basically pretty much manage a course during a semester. It's important to understand that I'm going to start here from scratch and then give you some concepts and then go from there. So to demonstrate quickly, I'm going to show here what a completed course looks like in Moodle so that you get an idea as to what you can accomplish with it. So this is a sample course that was taught earlier this year. And by the way, you can use Moodle also to deliver an online course. It has all the functionality that you would need for an online course. One thing to understand in Moodle is that, or in eLearning, is that basically everything is sequential. Unlike other learning management systems out there, in Moodle, the students will start with the resources at the top of the page, such as a course syllabus, course logistics, and other components in the course, and then move to week one. All the week one resources will be posted right here. For example, a summary of that week, what's going to be covered, then the reading, what has to be accomplished for that week, and then the various lectures within for that specific week, various blogs and forums, and then even particular assignments from week to week. So the idea here is that everything is offered to the student, everything that they would need for that specific week, it's given and listed under each block here. So that's the major idea. Other learning management systems, they may take an approach where all the assignments are together, all the lectures are together, and all the quizzes are listed together and so on. And that option can be chosen from here under activities as well. So that's one of the things. Everything is sequential. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are these blocks here on the right-hand side. Those blocks can be customized as well. Those are just supplementary material, whether they are for navigation or whether they are for other functionality and information that you want to display for the students. And I'll try to cover those shortly as well. But the idea that I wanted to give here is that everything is sequential, and you have the various blocks, and that finally you can accomplish something very similar to this, where the student will click on various resources and then follow the pattern or follow the path of the lessons or the activities that you have presented for them. So that's the major overview. Now, as far as getting into the system, so let's get started using the system itself here. So just like with any other system, of course, you need to log in. And by the way, for those of you that are not part of Cairn University, if you're watching this video, you can actually, this is pretty much the clean theme in Moodle 2.9. But basically here we need to log in on the top right-hand side. Then once you log in, and this is new with Moodle 2.9 or eLearning 2.91 here, you'll have this dashboard. The dashboard is basically a listing of courses and resources that students receive or view, and faculty views as well. The nice thing here is that you basically, if you have certain things that need to be taken care of, you'd click on any of these items in here and it'll expand them out. The idea as well is that you can click on the course and it will take you to the course that you are teaching. Now, if you're not getting this view, for whatever reason you're not getting this view, you can also click here on eLearning Home, and that will take you to the startup view. It's not the dashboard, it's basically a listing of the courses as they are arranged university-wide. So if you want to make this the home page, you can just simply click here, make this my default home page. Otherwise, you'll be using the dashboard that is from the main page over here. Now, note as well as you're getting started with this, notice that you have some links here on the top hand side here. So there's links for various other systems that we have here, library resources, other courses. Also down here in the drop down you can change things related to your profile and grades. This is primarily for the students, messages, and other preferences as well that you can customize. Also notice that in the very bottom here there are other links that we have customized at the footer of this site for the faculty. So particularly here you'll be focusing on the area for the faculty. So now in this case what we are going to do is we're going to start tinkering with a specific course that we are going to assume we're going to start working and we're going to teach this course. So in this case, let's suppose that we are working here and the course that we are going to teach this semester is the test course here. This is from the dashboard view. If you go to the standard view of after you log in, you'll see something very similar as well, the name of the course. So we'll click on the course here and notice it's going to be blank. Now in our case here at the university, all the courses are created automatically and they are linked to the student information system, and students are enrolled automatically and the courses are created automatically as far as a blank page, very similar to this. So now you as the faculty, where do you start? That's the question, and that's the point of this video tutorial as well. So to get started, like I mentioned in the previous session or in the previous part here, everything is sequential. So you want to put stuff here on the very top of the course, such as a syllabus, announcements, things of that nature. And then on each topic here, on each area, this is where you want to post resources for each week for your students. So how do we do that? Very simply, one of the magic buttons here is by clicking on the Turn Editing On. If you don't turn this button on, you can't change anything. So that's one of the keys in Moodle. So that's one of the keys here in Moodle is to click on Turn Editing On. So click on Turn Editing On, and then you'll notice a whole bunch of new buttons show up everywhere. Basically, notice you have this gear icon, and by the way, this may look slightly different from version to version. We are constantly tinkering with it to make things hopefully better, but just the idea is going to be the same primarily. So notice you have these icons here. So this edits the summary here. This icon here allows you to move this resource. This pen over here allows you to edit the title of an actual item. And then further down, you have here add an activity or a resource. This is where one of the ways that you can add stuff to your course, whether you can add assignments, attendance, the chat module, forums, lessons, quizzes, and all this other types of stuff here. Notice that there is the top part here. These are activities that students usually perform for you. And then the second portion here under resources, this is resources that you can post for your students. So the idea again is you click on add an activity or resource for each block that you are working with. Now typically our courses here, we design them so that they are about 16 to actually 17 blocks. That should allow for the length of a semester, maximum 17 weeks, we assume. If you want additional sections in your course, you can either click on this plus sign, or the minus plus sign adds another one, minus decreases it in the bottom here, or you can go under administration here, and by the way, this is how you administer your course, major settings of your course, and you can click on edit settings. We are editing the settings for this course. So we click on edit settings here, and this is just, again, just to get started here, to get an idea. We don't recommend that you change any of this stuff here, the course name and the dates and all that type of thing, because problems will occur for sure. You can change the course summary to put a summary here. Course format, this is where you can add more sections. So you can add here 18 or more, up to 53 or 54 sessions. So if you're teaching 3 times a week, you might want to make this 42 blocks, and you just choose 42 here. It'll change it to 42 blocks. Then you can change other items in here. However, we don't recommend. By the way, notice there are question marks here to help you with what these do. And maybe consider enabling completion tracking. That then for various assignments, your courses, whenever you post an activity, you can set criteria and the students can keep track of what they have completed and what they have not completed. So then you click on Save and Display. That'll take you back to the main course here. Now at this point, like I mentioned earlier as well, you have various other options here. You shouldn't have to tinker much with them. You have these different blocks that can be moved up or down by simply dragging them. Latest news and so on. And so on. So now we are ready to start this course. The idea is to get the course to look something like this, for example, with all the resources for each week for the students. Now in this case, this is an online course, however, the flexibility is there. So in the next session here, I'm going to actually start how to add the headings for the course. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to get started with your course as a faculty at Cairn University. So once you get to your course, if you are going from the dashboard, you'll be able to locate your course in the dashboard here. In this case, I'm working with test course. So as soon as you log in, basically click on the title of the course, and then you will be presented with something similar to this. Now the first thing that you want to do is you want to click on Turn Editing On in this course. You click on Turn Editing On, and now we are ready to start updating the course. So now the first thing that I suggest that you do is you click on this gear icon here, or the configuration button here, and then add the summary for this course. This is the heading on the very top. So here we want to add, and you might want to consider here also adding the semester and how to get it for the students to get started and things of that nature. So at this point, all you have to do is you can simply click Save Changes. Notice here as well, and just to get started as well here, you can make stuff bold here, you can make it italics, you can change the font to use a different theme if you prefer, or a style for formatting the text. Notice there is also this toggle or toolbar toggle here that if you click on it, it gives you 2 more rows of icons. In here you can change additional properties, and I would suggest that you simply hold the mouse on them and it will tell you as to what it does. It's very similar basically to items in Microsoft Word or some other application out there. One of the components that you potentially could use here as well is inserting a picture as part of your course, a fancy picture of some sort. And to do that, notice one of the icons here is to insert an image, and then you can click on Find or Upload the image, and then click on Choose File. We want to find the file, and in this case, I'd assume I have created a folder on the desktop called Sample Course. I'd assume that you'd have something similar as well under Documents or somewhere else, wherever you keep your source files. Now, if you go here under any of those, let's see if I can find an image, then you'll click on Upload this image. At this point, you can then click on Appearance, and notice the image is pretty large, so we want to change this to, let's say, 300 pixels. And it's going to, I just clicked somewhere outside of this box here, and it customized the second dimension automatically. And by the way, if this seems complicated, just don't add an image to your course to get started here. So then we click OK. Now notice it put the image on the left-hand side. So if we want to change the image to the right-hand side, we can click on the image, select the image first, and then click on the image icon. And then we go here under Appearance, and we'll change it so it's aligned to the right-hand side. And then click on Update, click OK again, and then click on Save Changes. So again, you click on the icon here, or just simply review the video, just rewind it. So that's changing the course heading. Now let's say we want to add the syllabus for this course. To add the syllabus, it's a couple ways to do it. One of them, I'll show you the longer way that will always work for you. So in this case, I have my syllabus and other stuff here on the desktop, and it's a folder called Sample Course. So I have my syllabus and all that other stuff. It's also recommended that you actually use or post the syllabus in PDF format instead of Word format. So here's my syllabus, and then I want to post this. So to post it, of course, we make sure the editing is turned on in the course, and I'll show you first way, the long way. So we want to click on Add an Activity or a Resource. Notice you can do that for each block, but we want to do it here in the very top of the course. We click on Add an Activity, then we scroll down, and our syllabus, technically it's a file that we want to upload. So we click on File, then click on Add, and then we are going to give it a name. And then the description here for this item, we don't really need to worry about it, but usually you'd want to put a description. And then over here, you want to add the content or add the file. So again, we are doing this manually. We could even drag and drop it here, but for now we are going to do this manually. So we click on Add, and then we click on Choose File. So this process at this point, it's very similar to attaching a file to an email as an attachment. So now I go here under my sample course, I go to course syllabus, this is in PDF, then I click Open, and then click on Upload this file. At this point, technically I could simply click on Save and Return to the course, and it's done. However, I can go here under Appearance, and I can change stuff in here. So force download, it will make the students, it will actually download. As soon as they click on the file, the students will be able to download it, even if they have pop-up blockers or things of that nature. You can also choose to open it in a pop-up and open in other options, but usually suggest either click on Open here or force download. And at this point, we go back here and choose Save and Return to the course. We could click Save and Display, but for now we're going to go back to the course. So notice at this point, the syllabus has been posted. So click on Course Syllabus. This is what the student will get. They'll click on Course Syllabus here. They'll ask them where do you want to save it. I'll save it on the desktop for now. I'll click on Save, and it's going to download it, and there it is. So that was basically posting the course syllabus. Okay, so we are back to the course here. So let's assume that I want to post the syllabus, but I want to post it the easier way. That was the long way. So I'm going to actually delete it here for a moment. So click, by the way, to delete something or tinker with something, you can click here on the delete next to each item, and then, or edit next to each item, and then you could do a bunch of other things with this. Now we click on delete here. Yes, and it's gone. Now, to add the syllabus, an easier way, or any of the resources for that matter, is that you can actually drag and drop them. So you basically make sure that editing is turned on in the course. We have all these little icons. Then the way it works is that you can bring up your files, just basically have the box or the window with your files on top of the e-learning page here, and then simply select the file and then just drag it to your course. You shouldn't have to do anything else. It's posted, it's ready to go. And you can do this for any other resources as well, for lectures and things of that nature. So that's how easy it is to post the course syllabus. So in this session, I'm going to demonstrate how to customize the resources for week 1 and how to add additional content to this section. Because after you uploaded your syllabus to your course page, you then want to start outlining week 1 and post all the resources for week 1, because as I mentioned in the very beginning, everything is kind of sequential. You have all the stuff for week 1 and then all the stuff for week 2 and week 2 and so on. So in this case, we make sure that editing has been turned on in the course page, and then we scroll down. So we want to change this from topic 1 to week 1. We click on this edit summary icon here, And then we want to go and change the section name. Notice right now we can't type anything in there. So we uncheck use default section name, and we call this week 1. So let's say that, and let's say the topic, you could even list the topic that you're going to cover. And then down in the summary here, you potentially want to either have something like a summary of what you're going to cover that week, or you could list in there the learning objectives for that week and things of that nature. And so on and so on. So remember, you can also customize this so that it will be bold and so on. Now, if you do not have the 3 rows of icons here, the trick to enabling that is by clicking on this first icon here, and that will give you the additional icons. Now, click on Save Changes, and the content for topic 1 has been updated here. So notice it says week 1, September 1 through 6, and the learning objectives and all that stuff. Now, let's suppose that we want to add the first lecture. So to add the first lecture, you can either reference the previous video on how to add the syllabus, and you can do that the long way by clicking on Add an Activity or Resource, and then browse for the file and attach it. Again, review the previous video. Or you can drag and drop it. So meaning you go to your files. So in this case, I have sample course here, and let's say my PowerPoint is this one. I have this lecture 1, let's say. So I go over here and I simply drag it. So as long as my box here is on top of the e-learning page, or if you have 2 monitors, just have one window on one side and just drag it across the monitors to the course page. So the trick again is drag it and just let it go. It'll be uploaded to the system and it's ready for the students to view it at this point. If you do not like the title of this lecture, you can change it also from here. Notice this little pencil, edit title, and you could say lecture 1, and then simply hit enter. If you click somewhere else, it's not going to change the name for you. So notice there is lecture 1. Now let's say we wanted to add additional files in here. So again, the process is the same. You simply go and drag it over here. You can also drag multiple files at the same time. So let's say I want this first one, this one, and that one. So in this case, I'm holding the control key to select them separately, but however you select your stuff. Now, since they are all selected, simply drag them over here, and it's going to upload them all at the same time. Now notice when I upload an image, it's going to expand that image to be larger. So in this case, you may want it, you may not want it there, but if I don't want it there, I can simply click on Edit here and then choose Delete. So now notice we have here a bunch of resources. I would call those resources for the students. They'll simply be able to click on them, open them up, and download them and all that type of stuff. So it's better than nothing. It's not enhanced yet, but better than nothing. So that's basically uploading resources here. And this was just documents and so on. The next step in your development of your course is to post additional content for your students to view. So in this case, let's assume that we are going to have here a little sticker that will post something, reading, or to, let's say, just list the reading for that week. The way we do that is by clicking on Add an Activity or a Resource, and then we'll scroll down here and we'll choose this option for a label. The label option is very similar to like a post-it note on the course page. So here we just put the text for this label. And you, of course, can make things different colors and customize this the same way that we did in the previous videos. Now click on Save and Return to the course. and it has been listed in here. This, by the way, can be longer as well. Now notice the reading for the week, it's kind of down here, further at the bottom of the course. If we want to move this to be the first one, you simply hold the mouse on it and on this icon in front of the item and simply drag it to wherever you want it. You can even drag it across blocks here as well. Now, if you want these videos to be indented as well, you can click here on Edit and then choose Move to the Right, and that will indent them accordingly. So you could have a section here, readings for the week, resources for the week, assignments for the week, and so on, by simply using those label options. So that was using a label, adding a label and rearranging the items in the course. The next step in developing a course in e-learning is to add links to various YouTube videos or resources out there on the web. And I'm going to demonstrate here a couple different options. One, to link to an article, whether it's a library system article or whether it is a video from YouTube as well. So let's first link to a library article. So first we go here under, we want to find the link to the article. So let's say we go to library.cairn.edu and then find, by the way, this is a great resource for your students and your research. You simply type the name of the article here. And of course, there's a lot of stuff here. Notice it's 112,000 or 120,000 articles and so on. But basically, you find the article and you copy the link to it. So notice here, however you find the links, basically you can either copy the URL, well, let's say it's from CNN.com or wherever the article is. Go to the full text article here as well. Notice full text PDF. And now in this case, we want to post for the students a direct link to it. So the direct link, this is a permanent link. Of course, it's a library resource, but we'll click on permanent link here. This is best. Usually you'd copy the URL from the top of the page. So in this case, just the link here on the right-hand side. And then you'll copy it, Control-C. We'll go back to the course that we were working at. And now we want to insert that link as a resource for the students. Now we click here and we scroll all the way to the bottom and we choose URL. Click on Add, and then we want to post a name for it. So we'll say article. You could put a description, and if you post a description, you can also choose to display the description here on this page. And I'm going to post it to the front page here, and this is where you post the external URL. I'm going to Control-V to paste it, and notice it has all the URL basically. Now under the appearance, this is where you can choose to display it automatically, or you can just open it in a pop-up, or simply direct the students to open it and so on. So any of those options should be fine. Now we click on Save and Return to the course, and that link to the article has been posted here. So notice this is the link to the article, this is the explanation. Students will click on it, it will take them directly to the article. And it works in a very similar way for any web articles out there. In this case, we also don't have to worry about copyright because we are linking whether to the library resources or to the web. So the next step in our development of the course here is the linking of a YouTube video, or posting a link to a YouTube video in our course page, let's say for week 1. So in this case, what we need to do is, and this is, I find it easier, basically simply go to YouTube and find the link to your YouTube video. So for example, I have here, I did a search for supercomputers, and I want to post this video for the students as for them to watch this video. Basically, one of the easiest ways would be to simply copy the URL on the top, very similar to the article in the previous video. Then we go to our test course here, and then we click on add an activity or a resource. We scroll all the way to the bottom, and this is again a URL to a video out there. So this is the first method. So we click here on URL, and then we give it a name here. Okay, and you could put a description for it if you want, and then post the external URL from here. Then you can choose the appearance here, how you want to present it. You could also embed it, this option, it will embed it in the course page. You click on save and return to the course. And when the student clicks on it, so we'll click on it. Notice, since we chose the option to embed it, the student will actually see and watch, the student will watch that video directly from eLearning without having to go to YouTube and see all these other advertisements on the right-hand side. The student has to simply click on play. So that was the option. After we gave the URL, we actually chose to embed it. So that's posting a link to a YouTube video. There is also another way to post it on the main course page, but that will be for another video. Now the next thing that I want to show here is, and this might be the question, as new faculty using this system is, well, what do the students see? How do I know that the students are seeing what I have over here? So to see what the students see, what you can do is you can go under administration here and see and switch your role to the student role. So notice there is switch role to, click on student, and then anything that you see in here, this is what the students see. So if you have hidden an item, so now let me go back to the normal role, which would be my teacher role here. If I go, let's say, and hide one of those items, and by the way, this is how you hide components in the course. So you click on turn editing on, and then let's say I want to hide lecture 1. Click on hide, and notice it's kind of grayed out. That means it's not going to be displayed to the students. Even though you see it, it's not going to be displayed to the students. So now if I go and switch my role here under administration to the student role, that lecture 1 will not show up. So it's important to check this option. So notice it doesn't even appear whatsoever for the student view. Now let's return back to the normal role, and let's make sure that we enable it. So to enable it, you turn editing on in the course, and then scroll down, and here we click on edit and then choose to show it. So that's basically the functionality to view the course from a student's point of view, as well as hide and show a resource within the course. It works the same way for other activities that I'll be displaying in a moment or demonstrating in a moment. In this brief session, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure the gradebook in eLearning. And before we get too excited, if you're watching this video sequentially from the whole tutorial, I'm going to deviate a little bit here and configure the gradebook, because it's important that you understand how to configure the gradebook. And it's best to configure it in the beginning of the course and then tweak it toward the end of the course, rather than leaving it for the last minute and not having it configured whatsoever. So just a quick idea here to get to the grades, or the way things work basically in eLearning. basically, in order for something to show up in the gradebook, you need to create an activity on the course page here. So far, all of these are resources. We are not really grading the students on any of these. Activities are basically assignments, forums, or quizzes and exams, or even lessons that may have questions in them. So again, the idea is to create the item over here, then it trickles down to the gradebook. Well, you'd say, well, where is the gradebook? How do I view the gradebook? The gradebook is here under administration, and you click on grades. And notice it lists student names here. I don't have much in there, but this is how it would show up for a real class. And then this is where all the assignments would show up all the way to the right-hand side. So we don't have any assignments. We don't have any other things in the course. However, we are going to configure the gradebook. So why do we want to do it now? It's because you tell the system that I'm going to have exams, I'm going to have quizzes, I'm going to have papers, and you tell the system how many percent. Then when you create the assignment, then you can point it to the right category of items. And this will make sense in a moment, so still hang in there if you can, please. So to set it up, all you have to do is, after we go to the grader report here, we click on Setup. Notice there's an option over here in the left or in the very top here under the grader report. Now we are going to set up the gradebook. Notice there's not much now. You'd say, where do I get started? To get started, or your starting point would be based off the syllabus, because that's where the assignments trickle down from your course syllabus. So what you need to do is you need to go to your syllabus, and usually in your syllabus, one of the sections, it will demonstrate how the students are going to demonstrate learning, that they actually grasp what they have to study in this course. So notice here we have weekly quizzes and lesson reflections. Those are going to be 10% of the grade. That's one category. It could be 13 quizzes, it could be 7 quizzes, but that's only 10% of the grade. Then we're going to have 2 exams, and those are going to be 30% of the course grade. And then we're going to have an e-portfolio, and that's going to be 10%, and so on and so on. So in this case, what you need to do is look at this section in your syllabus and basically map those into your gradebook in eLearning. So let's try this. I'm going to try to do a split screen here and also here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to just overlap them a little bit. And now at this point, what we want to do is, you can, by the way, print this out for your sake. Now you click here on Add Category. And then we give it a category name. So our category, the first one will be Quizzes. And make it kind of match the syllabus. Now, that's the title of the category. Now we are going to say, what about the aggregation or the calculation, I would say? How is the system going to calculate the grades? Well, by default here it says weighted mean of grade. That means it's going to calculate them. Quiz 1 is going to be 10%, it's going to be more than the second one and all that type of stuff. However, that's kind of more complicated. My suggestion would be that you change this to simple weighted mean of grades. This is very important. This is where you'll get lost. This is where it'll cause trouble for your configuration of your gradebook. Choose simple weighted mean of grades on the drop down here at the category level. At the course level, it needs to be weighted mean of grades. At the category level, it needs to be simple weighted mean of grades. This is where you can also drop the lowest grade if you want. So if you have 10 quizzes and you want to drop the first one, or 2 of them, or not the first one, but drop the lowest one, this is where you tell the system how many of them you want to drop. Now your question would be, well, how does the system know which one is the lowest one? The system knows for each student which one is the lowest grade, and it'll drop it automatically. So here we could say drop the lowest one, but for now I'm not going to choose it. And then maximum grade, minimum grade, leave all of those alone. and basically simply click on Save Changes for now. We're not going to put this 10% anywhere yet. So the next thing that you do is you scroll down here and you choose Add Another Category. We click on Add Category. The next category, if we look in the syllabus, it's the exams. So we don't say 2 exams, we just say exams. Again, the aggregation or aggravation, as some say, it's simple weighted mean of grades. Then click on Save Changes, leave everything else alone, and that's done so far. The next one is Add Category. We go here to, let's say, ePortfolio. Even though it's one item, make that simple weighted means of grades also create its own category for it. Next one, it's going to be homework assignments. So we click on, scroll down here, Add Category, and then homework. Simple weighted mean, save category. The last one here, actually this has more, but it has, let's say, course forums. And again, this depends from course to course. Simple, and then save. And then finally, research project. Simple weighted, save changes. Now that we created these, the next thing, notice here on the right hand side, and I'm going to change this just slightly to make it bigger. Notice on the right hand side, notice we created all the categories, but now it says for the weights it's 0. So this is where we put the weights. Now this is the first one, it's at 10%. Just put 10 in there. You don't have to do 0.10 or 0.1 or whatever. Just do 10%, just like in your syllabus. The next one, it says 2 exams are going to be 30%, so just put 30. That's another area where a lot of faculty get stuck. And then the next one, it's 10%. The next one was 10. The next one, it was 20. And the research project was going to be, the forums were 15, I think, and the last one was 15. So all of those, if you add all of these weights up, they should add up to 100%. So click on Save Changes, and at this point, the gradebook has been configured. What will happen is that when you create the assignments in a moment here or in the next video, when you create the assignment, you choose and specify which category in the gradebook that assignment falls under. So when we go to quizzes here and we create a quiz, that's going to show up directly under the quiz category here because we selected the quiz category. That's the reason why you want to create the gradebook first and not leave it for the very last minute. You can do it at the very last minute, however, the student will not know the accurate grade until you have configured things correctly. And doing it this way, it will be reflected correctly from the start of your course. So, at this point, the gradebook has been configured. There's not really much that seems to have changed as far as the main gradebook report area, but the trick is if we go here under Setup, this is where we have laid out the framework or the scaffolding for the house. So that's where we are. So that's configuring the gradebook. Stay tuned. Now we'll create an assignment in the next video to enhance our course. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure the grade letters in eLearning for a course based off the syllabus. So most of the time, the faculty may have custom grading scale that may differ from other courses. In eLearning, the default grading scale is usually 93 to 100 is an A, and then from an A minus would be 92 to 93, and so on. So the question is, how do we change this in eLearning, and where do we configure this for our course in eLearning? To configure the grade letters in eLearning, what we need to do is first we need to go to our course here. We do not need to turn editing on in this case. And then we need to go to grades. So we click on grades. And then under letters here in the grade report, there's this option letters, or here on the left hand side as well. So either one of those options. Under letters, we go and we'll notice that by default here 93% to 100% it's going to be an A. This is for the overall course or for an assignment. If a student scored 93% in that specific assignment, no matter how many points you're scoring against, let's say you're scoring against 20 points, now they got 18 out of 20, that would be 80% or whatever it is there. So the question or the idea here is, how do we change those grade letters so that they would be matching our course syllabus that we have here? So to change those, again, we went to the Gradebook, we clicked on letters, and then we click here under Edit Grade Letters. Once we click on Edit Grade Letters, then the next thing we need to do is we need to tell the system that we want to override the site defaults. So we click on Override Site Defaults, and then we want to say here that letter A is anything 95 and above. So what we do there is just basically type 95. The next one here is an A minus. For me, it's 92 to 95, basically. So then for an A minus, here we put 92. And then for a B, it's 85. And so on, basically. So then you go to 82 and so on. So I'm not going to go through all the letters here, but this is where you customize them according to your scale. Then all you have to do is you click on Save Changes. And at this point, I'm going to make this larger here. At this point, for all the assignments and for the whole course, for this individual course, the grades will be calculated using this scale, if we were to call it that, even though eLearning doesn't call it as such. So if we go over here, then those grades will be automatically recalculated, and so that's how you enter the grade letters and adjust them according to your course. In this brief session, I'm going to explain how to add an assignment, a regular assignment to eLearning, to your course in eLearning. So in the earlier video, we configured the gradebook. Keep that in mind. It's important to configure the gradebook first. So now we go back to the course. By the way, to go back to the course, we can just click on the title of the course here. It will take us back to the course page. Make sure you turn editing on the course page. Usually it will be like that. So we want it, turn it on. And then now in week 1, we want to create for the students. We had them review those lectures. We were in class. You can post also video lectures as well. And we posted a YouTube video and other supplemental material. Now the students are going to be doing an assignment for you. So to add an assignment, these are the steps. Basically, you click here on Add an Activity or a Resource, and the first item here is the assignment option. We click on Add, and then click on Assignment Name. Just give it a name. So let's say for assignment 1, you want the students to write a reflection paper. and just put the details under the description. That's where you want to put all the details for your assignment. The more details, the better it is, the clearer it's going to be for the students as to what they have to complete and all that type of thing. So outline everything the way you want them. You could also post source additional files for them to reference, and you just drag and drop them in there. So if you wanted them to have additional, just drag them in there. Then under availability, I don't recommend that you put due dates in here. You can just specify, because then you forget to put the due dates for next time that you're teaching the course. So if you're going to use the due dates, make sure that they are accurate and they are maintained from semester to semester. If you wanted to enable it, you can simply click on it and choose whatever date and time. It's important to understand that after the due date, depending on how you set up the system here, the students may not be able to submit anything and they will bug you with email. So under the submission types, the file submissions, that means that's the default setting. That means that the students are going to upload a file very similar to attaching it via email. It's just going to click on browse and just upload it. Under online text, this is where the students will type the text online and then you just have to go and view. It's not going to be formatted in a nice way, but it's just going to be online text. That's where you can limit certain words. If you chose online text, you could say I want 300 words. Number of files to be uploaded. Usually, typically, it's only one file that the students have to be uploading, but you might, if you have more, this is where you change it. Under feedback types, all of this stuff you shouldn't really have to change much. So you can leave that alone. Under submission settings, you can even leave those alone as well. And then under the group submission settings, if you have groups in your class, this is where you can define whether the students have to submit in groups, yes or no, and all that type of thing, but that will be another video for another time. And then under notifications, notify graders about submissions. That means every time a student submits a paper, you get to receive an email that the student submitted the paper. So usually what I suggest is that you leave this as no and leave the next option here as a yes. So the way that works is that if you set a deadline up here for the due date and the students uploaded the assignment after the due date, then you can receive an email. And I know that I just referenced earlier that we shouldn't set due dates. You can set due dates as long as you keep up with them. And then under grade, this is key. This is where you tell the system how you're going to grade this paper. Typically, papers are graded using points, like against 100 points or whatever point system that you use. Or you can use, as I'll demonstrate potentially in a little bit, a rubric. So this would be against points, and it's going to use a direct grading method, meaning they scored 90 points out of 100. 88 out of 100 or whatever they scored. The other grading method is to use a rubric, and that's the more preferred way. However, to choose that, you have to create and define the rubric for that assignment as well, which is not a bad idea to do anyway. So for now, I'm just going to do it simple. We gave it a name on the top. We posted dates, due dates, if we chose to do so. Then under here, under the grade, we tell the system how many points we are going to grade it against. Now, my suggestion is that if it's a small assignment, you don't make the maximum points 100 points. Because when we configure the gradebook, remember we did the simple weighted mean of grades. That's what we used earlier. So that means that if the big papers and the small papers are all 100 points, then all are equal. My suggestion is that if it's a small paper, maybe choose maximum points. It would be 20. But then if it's a 5-page paper, 10-page paper, that would be the 100-point paper. Now, down here, notice under the grade category, notice how you have these categories now? Those are the categories because we configured the gradebook in the previous video. If you didn't watch that go back and watch that again, how to create the gradebook. But now this is easy. We can just choose homework assignments, and in the gradebook it's going to be under homework assignments. And then here other options, you get put grade to passed and all that type of stuff. Restrict access and so on. I wouldn't put too many restrictions, because then if you have the wrong settings, you're going to create more problems for yourself. Under activity completion, this is where you can, and I explained this in the very beginning of the tutorial, this is where the student can either mark this as completed by putting a check mark on their end, or you can make it conditional so that it will be marked complete only when certain criteria are met. For example, the student has to view it first, then they have to receive a grade for it, or they have to submit to it, and all these other stuff. But be cautious of dates. Now, if we are all set and done, we click on Save and Return to the course, and that assignment has been created for the students. So the students now can click on it, and they'll see the assignment here. So these will be the requirements. There's a file that they have to view for it, and then you'll be able to go and grade this stuff for the students. So that was creating an assignment. Now, let me go back here and I'll show you the gradebook. So now if we go to the gradebook here under grades, we'll notice here that under the setup for the gradebook, first your assignment is over here under homework assignments. But if we go here under setup, you'll notice that under homework assignments, we have assignment number 1. Again, this was because when we configured it, this assignment, we chose the category under the grade area, the category to be under homework assignments. Now, another thing to remember as well, since before I end this tutorial on just creating a regular assignment, is also remember, if it's an important assignment, remember to also utilize the Turnitin module. Now the Turnitin module, it's an add-on module, a paid module to eLearning or Moodle in this case. But remember to also create a Turnitin activity as well for that specific paper. This kind of avoids or prevents to some extent plagiarism and acts as a deterrent. So to add a Turnitin assignment, I'm going to demonstrate this very briefly without going into very many details. You simply click on Add an Activity or Resource. You click on Turnitin Assignment. Ignore this version 2 for now. You click on Add, and you just say, and we usually choose this wording, a reflection paper originality check, and then under the summary we say, please upload your assignment So basically what the student is going to do is they're going to upload the assignment twice. Once for you to grade it, once to be checked against Turnitin. I know in Turnitin as well you can grade it directly from there and all that type of stuff, but for the sake of simplicity, it works best this way, at least from our experience. Now, under grade here, you don't want to have points assigned to the Turnitin assignment. In this case, you just click on None, and then scroll down, and then click on Save and Return to the course. So that was creating an assignment in eLearning. Hopefully that makes sense. In some cases, we recommend that you click here, Edit, and move it to the right. Now in this session, I'm going to demonstrate how to grade submitted assignments from students. So when a student signs in, this is what they usually see. They log in here as to their test account, and they see whatever you have posted in the course. Now under assignment 1, they'll click on reflection paper, they'll see the details for it, and they'll have a button to click on Add Submission. Under Add Submission, they have to certify that this is their own work, and then they have to simply drag and drop the file that they worked on. So here they can click on Add, choose Browse, and then locate the work that they did. So here's sample course, and for now I'm just going to pick any of these things here. And then click on Upload this file. They could also have dragged and dropped it here as well, and then Save Changes. Now for you as the instructor, as you're getting those assignments, now the question is, how do you grade those papers? Where do you go to grade them, and so on? So now I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go back to our course as a teacher. In the previous moments here I was as a student, now I'm going to go in as a teacher and make sure, actually you don't need to turn editing on, but you could if you wanted to. Now you go to the assignment, and this is the proper way of grading the assignments. You go under Assignment 1, and then it has all the details about it. Now notice in here you have this option for View Grade All Submissions. So click on it, and in here you'll see all the students in your course, and also see the assignments that have been uploaded by the different students. Now a couple ways of doing the grading here. One of the things is that you can enable quick grading here, and you have to do this once in your computer, and then you'll notice these checkboxes. So you basically could click in here, open up the document, read their paper, and then put your grade right there. That's one way. It's kind of the quickest way, but not really the most recommended way. Now, what we do suggest is that you actually go to wherever your papers start, and you click on this little pencil or grade icon here. So you click on it, and then notice in here it gives you a lot of details, and here's the assignment from the student. You'll click on it to download it. I'm going to save it. And then you'd basically open it up. And then let's assume that this is their paper. Now, the next thing that we suggest about doing here is that you go here under Review, and then insert comments in the paper. So you can highlight a sentence and so on, click on Insert Comment, and then just add whatever comments they want. That you want. So basically you are grading this in an electronic way, making notes and all that type of thing. Now if you have a tablet PC as well, you can, here under inking, there's this option for inking. You can also use the pen like this to highlight stuff. And then once you're done, you click on Save here. You can give it a new name, but remember where you saved it to start with. I had it on the desktop at this point. So now let's assume I'm done grading this. I could put another comment here on the very top and go under Insert Comment. By the way, Microsoft Word for you might look slightly different. This is a very newest 2016 version of it. But it's the same idea. Under Review, Add New Comment, and then you could say Grade 89 out of 100, or if you remember for this assignment we had done it against 20 points, so this would be 17 out of 20. So keep that in mind as well. And then save it. Now we go back here to our system and we post the grade. So we post here 17 out of 20, notice. And then you also can post some additional comments. So you could either post all the comments right here, or you could say see attached or feedback file for comments. Because what we're going to do is, and this is the proper way of grading assignments, we are going to actually upload then the graded paper back to the student. So we can either drag it from here. So if I go here to desktop, there's my paper, drag it and drop it over here. Or we could have attached it by clicking on this icon and adding it in there and all that type of stuff. Notice it's going to send an email to the student to notify them, And then the next thing to do here is, we're pretty much almost done with this student. We click on Save and Show the Next. So that means save the grade, email the student, and show me the next student. Now in this case, the next student didn't submit anything, so we give them a 0. So if somebody didn't submit something, it's time to grade them. Just give them a 0, no assignment submitted. And then save and show the next, and all of that type of stuff. So that's the proper way of grading them. Now what happens is that the student got an email, the student can go back and see their feedback. So if I go back here as a student, this is what the student will see. It says it is graded, and the grade was 17 out of 20. It was a B. And then it says feedback comments. And then if they click on this, they'll see all the comments that you sent to them via that feedback file. Notice it has all the red scribbling and the comments here and all that type of stuff. So that's the proper way of grading the papers. Now the other thing that happens is that if we go back here to our course and we go to the gradebook, you don't have to enter anything anymore in the gradebook. So if I go to the grades, notice the grades have been entered for those 2 students automatically in here, and also the student will know what their grade looks like for the whole course as they are moving from one point to the other month in the semester. So this is the best way to grade it. Again, grade it from the main course page rather than entering the grades directly into the gradebook. If you enter grades directly here into the gradebook, you're overriding the actual grade for that assignment. It's like the store manager overriding the price for some item there. So that's grading assignments. In this next session, I'm going to demonstrate how to set up attendance in your course. So we go to the course and we click on Turn Editing On. By the way, the attendance module is not standard part of the Moodle installation. It is actually an add-on that is one of the plugins that one can add, like an administrator can add, a system administrator can add to the system. So once it has been added to the system and that option is available, you need to create pretty much one instance or one activity called attendance. So now we click here on Add an Activity after we have turned editing on in the course. We click on Add an Activity or a Resource, and then we choose Attendance. We click on Add, and then we have to give it some parameters. We're going to tell it that it's going to be called Attendance. You can also choose to have points to grade the attendance or participation in the course. In this case, in most cases, most faculty don't assign points to it, so we're going to change it to no grade for it. And then we're going to click on Save and Return to the course. Of course, I can click Save and Display. So now we choose Save and Return to the course, and we'll have a new item here on the very top of the course called Attendance. We click on it, and now we need to configure it. It's very similar to like when we create quizzes or we create a forum. You first tell the system it's going to be a forum with all the parameters, then we actually go and add the content or what the requirements will be within that forum. Now the next thing that we need to do for our course is, because the system is not smart enough to know when your class meets, is that we need to add the sessions that you're meeting with your class. So what you do is, the easiest is to click on the Add tab here, and then click on Create Multiple Sessions. Also, if you want the students to record their own attendance, you can enable that option as well. And by the way, this is new in the recent release. So then we choose the sessions. So we say it's going to be the 1st of September, and I'm going to choose 2016 here. And then you say the class is going to start at 9 a.m. and then it's going to end. So you tell the ending date, let's say the 16th of December of 2016. Of course, you choose the right dates here. So you're telling the system my class starts on such date and it ends on such date for the semester. Then you tell the system that my class also meets on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it meets once a week. So leave this alone to once a week. You don't meet multiple times at this frequency here. And then under description, you could just put their regular class. And then you scroll down and you choose Add Session. So what it's going to do here, before I click on Add Session, it's going to actually match them based on these dates on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and it's going to create all those instances for you to be able to take attendance. So now we click on Add Session, click on Continue, and now if we go here under Sessions, and we click here on the All option, notice we'll have all the different sessions created for this course. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that this date here, it's a European format or Australian, because this system, it's actually based off Australia, and we have not tinkered with it to customize it to be the US date format. So what this means is the day, the month, and the year. So keep that in mind. And then next, in the next video, I'm going to explain how to actually take attendance. But we are done with configuring attendance for this course. So again, all it had to be done was one instance of it, and then just tell what days and times your course meets. In this brief session, I'm going to demonstrate how to take attendance in your course. Once you have configured attendance, and if you have not done so, then just watch the video on configuring attendance in eLearning. So we click here on attendance, we go to the course, we click on attendance, and now let's assume that the class is in progress. So what we do is we basically bring this up on the screen or on our computer in the classroom, and then let's assume we're going to take attendance for the 2nd of September 2016. Of course, I'm putting this a year in advance so that when you watch it a year from now, this video, it will be kind of up to date. So notice here that the format of the date, it's slightly different. It's not US, so it's day 1st, month 2nd, and the year 3rd. So then here we click on the green button to take attendance. We'll need to click on the green button here to take attendance. And then what that suggests is these are all the students in the class. Of course, it's a test class here. So what that suggests is if you have a class with 30 students, mark everybody present in the course. So you have P here for present, L for late, E for excused, and then A for absent. And then you have these options here for remarks to make notes for yourself and so on. So what I'll do is mark everybody present by pressing P, and then either call everybody's name or figure out who is missing in the class and then mark them as absent for that course. And you could put notes here as well. Then click on Save Attendance, and the attendance for that session has been taken. This is advantageous as well because a student at any point in time, they can see how many times they have been absent in that class. Now, once you have taken attendance for that session, notice that the date here, it's hyperlinked. And if we wanted to change anything, we could either click on this little button. Notice how it has changed now. It says Change Attendance. Or we could click on the actual date here. Notice the other ones, we can't click on them. If you click on the date, you can change the attendance, and let's say you mark this guy late. He just showed up. And then click on Save Attendance, and that's updated at this point. So that's how you update a record in your attendance. Now, what you can also do is that you can review a report here by clicking on the Report option, and you'll be able to see a snapshot of all the students and all the days in the course for all your students. The other thing that you can do is you can choose to export this data into an Excel file or however you want for a specific range, and then you can also change the settings for your attendance, like you can tinker with these settings as well. So that's how you take attendance in your course, and hopefully it was helpful. In this session, I'm going to demonstrate how to create and utilize a forum in a course in eLearning. One of the key components, whether you're teaching online or on site, is to engage the students even after the class is over, for them to discuss asynchronously a specific topic related to whatever you're covering in class or outside of class. So the idea is, how do you as an instructor create a forum in the course here? So to create a forum, you can click on Add an Activity, and then just click on Course Forum. Then click on Add, and then basically we give it a name. So Week 1 Forum, or Discussion Forum, whatever you want to call it, and put as many details as you want. So you could say, so you want to basically find the controversial topics for them to discuss. Of course, this is probably not as controversial here, but you get the idea. And then you also put many details in there, that the requirements for the discussion, some of the guidelines for the forum and things of that nature. So as many details as possible. Now there are different forum types. Notice this drop down here. There is the first option. If you want to use this option, a single simple discussion, that means that only you can post discussion topic, and everything will be sequential, all in one long page and indented. The next option here is the Q&A forum. The Q&A forum is the type of forum that you ask a question, or you post a question to the students in the course, and they cannot see other student responses until they post their own answer. This is great typically, but you need to initiate the first post to the students in your course. So that's key as well. So after you create this, you also have to post an actual question for them to discuss. The most common one that is usually used in many of the courses, it's the standard forum for general use. What that means is that the students read this general discussion or description here, and then they click on Add the Topic, and then every student has their own thread. Basically, as other students are responding to that individual student, they have their own thread of discussion. So other things you can tweak here is attachments and word counting and completion tracking and all that type of stuff. But the other key is that you can categorize this and put it under forums. So it shows up in the gradebook under forums. And then under the ratings, this is another area here, you can choose different, how are you going to grade this discussion? So typically, if a student participates more than 2 times, then which one counts? So typically what you want is probably the average of ratings, or the average of their grades, in that case for each post. Of course, you have to grade each one of them. Or you can actually sum of ratings. So let's say that each discussion each week is 15 points. They're required to participate 3 times. And for each discussion, they get 5 points. Therefore, if they participate 3 times, they got 5s, then they got 15 out of 15. So it depends what you want to choose here, but typically, most faculty, they choose average of ratings. Then you can use the point system. So each discussion is going to be graded against points. Or you can use a scale, and what that means is that you can use one of those customized scales that we have created here at Cairn, but you can create your own as well. And basically where each discussion is rated as satisfactory, not satisfactory, outstanding, or somewhat satisfactory. So it's 4 points or 4 ranges in there, and then the computer converts them against points in point values. So most faculty, they use the current forums here. However, you can choose to use a point system as well. Then you leave everything alone here. Under activity completion, you can even require the students to post the posts before it's marked as complete. Then you click on Save and Return to the course, and then the students will see this item here in the course page. And then this is the scenario that they have to discuss. And then over here, this is where they can click on Add a new discussion topic. You, the instructor, can add the discussion topic, or they can choose the discussion topic as well. So this is what it looks like from the student view. So the student goes to the course, they see forum number 1, and they have the option to add a new discussion topic. They click here. Of course, you can require them to post more stuff to it. They can post attachments. They post it to the forum. Everybody in the class can get an email automatically as well. And now that has been posted. So here is Hubert's post. Now let's go back to the instructor view. So the instructor, if they go back to the forum here, and let's assume we just clicked on it. I'm going to refresh it. And here is the post by Hubert. Now, in here, this is where you'd rate it. Because we chose the point system, this is where you'd post how many points he scored. If you want to reply to him, this is where you'd click on reply. And need more details and so on. However, be cautious here, because when you reply in this format via the forum, this is going to be for the whole class. This response is going to be available for all the students in the course and not for that individual students only. So there's no mechanism at this point unless you email the students directly for you to contact them, just that student individually. So it's a group discussion basically. So that's basically the forums, how they will work. You'll see like a long thread here. And for all the students in the class, you'll see different threads. If you chose the simple discussion thread, then in the course, it will be only one discussion here flowing for all the students in the class. You don't have these different threads. Now, one other thing to remember here as well is that if you choose here, subscribe to this forum, this is where you can choose to receive emails or not receive emails for any of the posts. If you don't want to subscribe to it, you can still view the content or the posts, but you'll not get the emails. It's under the administration area. So it's a powerful tool to be used by the faculty for students if you are teaching in a class on site, for them to discuss things outside of class, but also for online courses. This is a very powerful tool to enhance the learning in an asynchronous way. Another important component of a course using e-learning is the use of quizzes. In e-learning you can create automated quizzes where the system will grade automatically true and false multiple choice questions and even matching questions. And then for essay questions, you can go back and just grade the specific essay questions in the course. So in this session, I'm going to cover how to create a quiz using e-learning. So we are in the course here, and now for week 1, we want the students also to take a quiz. So in order to take a quiz, by the way, if your textbook comes with a test bank, then those questions can be imported, and that will probably be another video. But for this video here, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a quiz from scratch, including the questions, of course, just a couple of questions. So first, it's 2 stages for it. First, you create the shell for the quiz. We're telling the system there is a quiz, and then the second part of it is to add the questions to the quiz. So now we click on Add an Activity here after we have turned editing on in the course. Click on Add an Activity or a Resource, and then we scroll down here under Quiz. So we locate Quiz, and then click on Add. Then in here we're going to call it Chapter 1 Quiz. And then under the description, this is where you'd give them a lot of details. Read Chapter 1, it's going to be a quiz with so many questions and so on and so on. You can also give additional directions that the quiz is going to be timed once they start. Don't switch to other browsers. Reference here also the academic integrity policy and things of that nature and so on and so on. But basically as many directions as possible. The other thing here is there are a lot of settings for the quiz setup. One of the options here is, notice there's an option here for expand all. Expand all expands all of these options. So you can set the quiz so that it opens at a specific day and time. It's not going to be available until that time comes up. So let's say we go to 2016 here, because probably this video will be relevant for 2016 and on. And you say, okay, it's going to be on September 5th at 3:21. And then you can choose to close the quiz at a specific time as well. And you want to close it maybe an hour later. Sometimes you close it the next day and so on. You can also specify a time, how many minutes the students have to take the quiz. However, keep in mind, if you do not need the time limitation, don't put it in there, particularly if it's a long quiz, because it really can frustrate and put additional pressure on the students. However, if you're focusing on it's a key quiz and you're focusing on academic integrity and all that type of thing, then you specify the time limit as well. Then if you scroll down here, you have the grade section, and this is typically it will look like that, but we just expanded it above, so if it didn't look, just click on the word. Then we click here on Uncategorize, and we choose which category this falls under. Again, the gradebook has to be configured first. If you didn't configure the gradebook, you can configure it later too. So we click here on Quizzes, and then you can specify grade to pass if you need to and all that type of thing. Then attempts, you can also specify how many attempts you want the students to try. How many tries do they get for the quiz? You can allow them multiple times. If the quiz, my suggestion would be that if the quiz, it's not critical to the course, it's just a practice one, it's just to reinforce the learning and so on, maybe give them multiple tries. But then under the grading method, you can change it so that either the highest grade of all of those attempts takes effect, or it can be the average grade, or it can be the last attempt, and so on and so on. So it just depends on what your preference is. Now here under the layout, this is where you can choose how the questions will be presented to the students. So in this case, it's every question, but yet you can configure it so it will be every 5 questions. So you have 20 questions, it's going to be 4 pages of the quiz for the whole quiz there. So basically 5 questions per page. Notice there's an option here for show more. Whether they want the navigation, you can force the students so they have to go in a sequence, or you just let them go free from question to question that they may prefer. For enhancing academic integrity, you can choose to shuffle within questions. And also, as far as the feedback, you can want to have the feedback, whether you want it deferred at the very end of the quiz, or you could have immediate feedback after they try each question as well. So then, as far as the review options, this is where you can choose whether to display the correct answer, yes or no, during the attempt, after the quiz is closed, and so on. So you make your own mind, make up your mind basically from there. And then you scroll down, you can even require a password for this quiz. Now, cases where you'd want a password for the quiz are, because you can limit it by the time, but let's say that 2 students didn't show up for the quiz, and now they have to take the quiz later. So what you can do is you can set a password in the quiz for them to take it either earlier or later and share the password with the students. So that's kind of the key for the password there. You can also reinforce so that they can't try it unless a certain amount of time has passed. The browser security would suggest to leave it alone. If you want to do enhanced browser security, that usually tends to cause more issues. Then the overall feedback, this is basically where you can give them automated feedback. If they scored between, let's say, 90 here and 100%, you can say, great job, you're going to do well in the course, keep up doing the same thing. But if they scored 60 and below or whatever, then you could say you're going to fail the course. So you can give them automated feedback based on the score that they get. So then you scroll all the way to the bottom here and then click on Save and Display. So all that we did so far, or we could do save and return to the course since we have been doing that for other activities. So we needed to add, since I chose that option, it needs some text in there. So at this point, we just have told the system that there's going to be a quiz and there are some parameters to the quiz, but yet we have not really added any questions to the quiz. So now the stage number 2 here is to click on and configure the actual quiz questions or add the questions. So we click on the quiz here, Chapter 1 quiz, and it says, well, there are no questions added yet. So we click here on Edit Quiz, and then this is where we add the actual questions. So we click here on Add, and we choose Add a New Question. If we had a test bank, that's where we get the questions, but for now we just have to add them manually. Now you can add all kinds of questions in the quiz, as you can see here on the left-hand side. Multiple choice, it tells you what it does, true and false, and so on and so on. Typically, it's 3 types of questions that are used primarily: multiple choice, true and false, and then essay questions. So let's create first a multiple choice question. So you give it a name to the question. This is just how it will be identified in the system. So you could say Q1 and then so this would be our question. We could format it to look different. And then here it would be general feedback. If you wanted to specify general feedback for that specific question, whether they scored it correctly or not, this is where you put general feedback. And the answers would be here. So you have basically option A, B, C, and so on. So we say the 4 functions for a computer would be input. So if they choose that, they get no grade. If they choose only output, that would be none as well. So they get no grade for it, or they get 0 basically, or failing grade. And then choice 3, it would be and let's say that's not the right answer either. Let's say that's not the right answer either, and then choice 5 is now remember here you can't say all of the above because the order will be scrambled. So in this case we'll say all of the above and it will say 100%. So if they choose all of them, all the presented options, then they get a score of 100 in that for that question. Now we click on Save Changes, and that is one question already added to the quiz. That was a multiple choice question. Notice these dots here. Now we go and add another question, and now we'll add a true and false question. So we click on true and false, add, we give it a name. In some cases you can just copy and paste the same question from the title into the question text, and then you can give general feedback depending on whether they chose whatever option they chose, or if it was correct then you get this. If it was incorrect, they get that type of feedback. And basically over here it says correct answer. You need to tell the computer which one is the correct answer for this statement. So in this case We want to say that is correct, that's true. And then we click on Save Changes. So that was a second type of question that we are adding to a quiz. Then we can go here and add another question, and let's say we want to add this question as an essay. So we just choose an essay question. Keep in mind that essay questions will not be graded automatically by the computer. And then you can say how many points this question will be automatically, but you don't need to specify the points in this at this point here. And then click on Save Changes. Now, this is where you'd specify the points. So let's say this last one, instead of counting it all equal, let's say I want this to count more. So I can simply click here on Edit Maximum Mark, and I can say I want that to count as 8 points, while the other ones count only as 2 points. And the whole quiz will count only as against 10 points. So you can have this against 100 points, let's say, but what that means is that this question will be 80% and those will be only 10% each. The key here is that you don't want this. You don't want the total number of points for all the questions to be higher than the maximum grade. In that way, what happens there is that the students, if they miss a question, they're not being penalized for it. Or if they miss the third question, they're not being penalized as much. So once you have determined the questions and also the maximum points and also the points for each question, you click on Save, and basically the quiz is ready for the students. Now you can also preview it. If you click here on Preview, this is how it will look when the students open it up. And they'll have a timer here because we chose 20 minutes earlier, and so on. Now for the students, when they go to take this quiz, and I think we can't take it at this point because we chose the settings here. Let me change the dates. So if I turn off the timing option for the dates, and then go and take this as a student, this is what the student will see. So they will go to the course, they'll click on Chapter 1 Quiz, they'll read the directions, they'll have how many attempts they have, how many minutes they are allowed, how it's going to be graded. They'll click on Attempt Quiz Now. It will warn them that this is, it has a timer, and that's it. So they put the feedback here for the essay question, and then it will give them a grade. It will give them a grade right away with the correct answer and not the correct answer, but then the essay is not graded yet. So they finish it. Now you as the instructor, you can go back in here, and now you need to grade the essay questions. So notice it says here attempts 1. That means that one student tried to take it and took it. Notice down here you have the report. Here's the attempt. This is the options that they missed. And then here is, you can actually click right here and see exactly which questions, how they did in each question as well. Now notice for question number 3, it says here requires grading. So you can either click over here to requires grading, or you can go under the quiz area here, or quiz administration, and there's this option here for manual grading. In manual grading, this is where you can grade all the essay questions for all the students from one spot. So you click on Grade All, and then it will display all the students' essay questions one after the other. And you can put comments here. And then you can give them a mark, 0 out of 8, for example, and then save and go to the next page, and that will be graded. and then the grade will be posted for the students. So that's how quizzes work. You basically have to define the quiz parameters first, you add the questions to it, and the students take it. Once the students take it, the grades will be recorded in the gradebook. If you have essay questions in the quiz, you have to go in and grade them manually. The next item that I'm going to cover here in using eLearning or Moodle is the use of lessons, how to configure a lesson, and how to use the lesson module in eLearning. So before I go into the details of configuring it, I'm going to go over and show you what an actual lesson looks like and what you can do with the specific lessons in Moodle, so that you get an overall idea as to what's possible. So for example, here we have an online course, and by the way, we use those lessons quite a bit in online courses. And if we scroll down here to one of the modules, by the way, all of these that have this little icon in front of them, those are usually lessons. So I'm going to go to one of those lessons here, let's say multiple intelligences and learning styles. So if I click on this, the lesson would look something similar to this for the students, or you can do something very similar to this, and it has a lot of flexibility in what you can do with the lesson module. So basically you can present new content, and the new content can be in text format, it could be pictures, it could be videos, a string of videos specific to a topic, and then after the student completes that video or watches this content, the student can move to the next page. And the next page can be an assessment of some form. So in this case, we have a form of assessment where the student will do some matching of the questions. And of course, I'm not choosing the right options here, so I'm just picking and just for the sake of submitting them. And then once they completed that section, you can direct the students to view additional content. So basically, you're taking them in a sequence of pages once they complete a task to move on to something else, and then assess them on that content, and then have them watch or review some additional content. For example, here we want them to go to a website, and at the end, they have to describe something. So then they move to the next page, and then in the next page we introduce new content as well, and then they end the lesson. In some other cases you could have them take, of course we saw an example of a short quiz to assess them, but also you could have true and false multiple choice questions, which is that type of quiz that you just saw, and also you could have essay questions. So I'm going to demonstrate at this point as to how do we configure one of those lessons for our course. This is an advanced feature, but yet it's a very powerful one, and if you can grasp it and get to use it in your courses, this will be very valuable for your teaching experience. So what we do here is we turn editing on first in the course, and then we go to add a new resource or actually activity in one of the blocks here. So we're going to go ahead and do this in week 1, again, still here. So we go here under add a new activity or resource, and then we are going to go and choose here adding a lesson. And you can read all about it as to what you can do and so on, but it basically enables a teacher to deliver content or practice activities in flexible ways. So you can do linear content, or you can even customize it so that if they answer a certain section a certain way, they can move to a certain other section automatically. So we'll click on add, and at this point we need to configure the shell, or to configure, just tell the system what this lesson is going to be like and all the different parameters. We're not actually creating contents of the lesson yet. The first step is just to define, to tell the system what the parameters are. So we're going to call this lesson 1. You could post a description as well in here, but it's not necessary. This is the content that will be posted on the main page, in the main course page. So you could say review all the pieces of this lesson, you'll be assessed throughout the lesson, all that type of stuff. So then you have here the appearance section of it, and by the way, you can expand all of those blocks by using this button here on the top right. So under Appearance here, you could add additional files if you wanted to, like resource files, but instead of doing it there, I'll show you how to attach files in a moment. Now, as far as a progress bar, if the lesson is going to be very complex with multiple pages and so on, you might want to add a progress bar for the course, but it's not necessary. Display an ongoing score. This is if you have quizzes throughout the lesson after they watch or review certain pieces of material. You're quizzing them. They can see the score, how they did so far. So it's up to you to choose that, but don't enable it unless you have those quizzes embedded in it. Display a lesson menu. This is if you have multiple pages again, it's going to display a menu for the lesson. So let's go back here for a second. And in our lesson here, we didn't have a lesson menu displayed. This would be, it would have a new section here as to what the different areas of the lesson are. So if I go and enable them here, this is again a lesson that we have already configured for another course. And if I choose yes to that option and then save and display, now notice it displays us, because this lesson had only 2 pages, it displays us the menu for this lesson. So that's what that option is. In some cases, if you have more than 2 pages, it's going to be many more pieces to it. So that was just the example there. Now let's go back to our course here. The next item here, so display lesson menu, most of the time you don't want to enable it unless you have multiple pages. Minimum grade to display menu, just you can skip that. Slideshow, you can skip that option as well. And if you wanted to look through any of these options, it'll give you an explanation here. Maximum number of answers. This is like if you're creating a multiple choice quiz, it's going to tell you that the default, when you choose multiple choice question, you'll have 4 choices for your answers. That's what that option is. Linking to other activities, you could make it so that it's conditional. They have to complete a previous activity before they do this one. We're not going to go into that depth at this point. And then availability. I don't suggest that you enable those due dates and deadlines and all that type of thing. However, it's up to you, but if you do, you have to keep up with those dates and times. If you choose to use availability, I would suggest that you hide it from the main course page and then enable it from there. As far as the time limit, it's an option that you can enable so that they have only a certain time to complete it. Now under flow control here, allow student to review. It would be best to allow them to review the questions or to review the content, because again, this is just a lower level type of learning, more type of formative questions and so on. Provide an option to try a question again. That's up to you whether you want to, when you're assessing the students, whether you want them to give them a second chance to try the questions. As far as how many times to attempt the questions, if it's a just practice lesson or a low score, you can give them more than 1 try. So usually I would suggest you give them 5 tries, and then in one of the other options here, we're going to see which one takes priority, basically, which attempt takes the highest priority. Now, as far as grading, you can have those so that they are graded. You can assign points to them. Against 100 points, 10 points, like we learned for other activities. And then you can also specify as to where this falls under what category. The grade category drop down here, it will show up if you have configured the gradebook. So if you have not configured it, you need to go back to the gradebook and take a look at that part of the video of this tutorial, how to configure the gradebook. So for now, I'm just going to put it under home assignments. Practice lesson, yes or no. If you say that it's a practice lesson, what that does is that students can tinker with it, but nothing will be recorded in the gradebook. Usually we do not say yes to this option. We want it to be in the gradebook. Retakes allowed, you can consider to allow them to retake it, and then the handling of the retakes. Usually it's best to encourage the students to take it as many times if it doesn't count for too much of the course grade, and usually suggest use the maximum. And then under other options here, you can check those for yourself, but we are not going to to mess too much with this. The other option to consider is, and this is new in this release, is under activity completion, you can choose to enable this option. So you could say, mark this activity as complete after the student is required to have spent X number of minutes on it. So if you expect the students to spend 30 minutes in it, and it's a 30-minute video or whatever it is, and they're spending only 5 minutes on it, then there's potentially a problem. So you could just say it's going to be marked completed only after 30 minutes have passed. So now we are done. We click here, save and return to the course. Of course, we could click save and display. We'll choose save and return to the course, and we are done with all the parameters for the lesson activity itself. We have not added any new content, it's just parameters. It's very similar to configuring the quiz or the forum. So now we click on the lesson one, and there's not really much that you'll see at this point. It's asking us, now you have a lesson, but you have no content for it. So what do you want to do first? Well, we want to potentially add a content page first. So we want to add some kind of resources, something for them to view. If you want to assess them first, that's where you would add the questions. So typically you want the content, some kind of content first. So we do the content, click on add page content, and then we give it a title. So we could say defining computers. And basically you can add all kinds of content in here. It's basically like building a web page at this point. Now you could add also, let's say you could add an image here. Now notice if this button is only one row here, you can choose to make it more than one. Now you can click here to insert an image, and then you just upload an image to your lesson by choosing a file, going to wherever your lecture resources are, and then choosing to upload the file. Of course, this is not necessarily the one that you want, but just as an example. And then you can change the parameters of the image here. I just clicked outside after I chose dimensions. I'm going to say I want it on the right hand side, and then I'm going to click on insert, then click OK. Now it's on here on the right hand side. You can also include here, and by the way, we can move this higher. You can also include here and link, so you could say review also this PowerPoint. And then you can hyperlink this toward this PowerPoint by simply selecting the text, clicking on this icon here for inserting links, and then going and locating your PowerPoint for this lesson. So notice it says insert URL. You can either post a URL from a website or wherever you may have it on Google Drive or wherever, or you can simply upload it to the system by clicking on this browse button over here. Now we click on, usually you click on choose upload from your computer, choose the file, and then find your lecture, and then upload it. Then click on insert. You can leave all these other options alone, and now this is hyperlinked. You can make it bold. That suggests that you make it bold. And by the way, you can insert PDF files, study guides that same way as well. That's what they do in some of the courses. We put a study guide linked in that area. So then you could say also, now after you review all of these, also watch this video. And you can go into YouTube and get a video and post the link over here. So if we go to YouTube here, and pick one of the videos, whichever you want, or whichever applies to your lesson, of course. Now, there are a couple ways to insert the video. The easiest one is to copy the URL here. We go to our lesson here in eLearning or Moodle, and then we simply paste it in here and hit enter. And then the system will actually build the video or display the video right there. Or the other option is that you could hyperlink it, highlighting the link, and click on insert. And there is a third option to actually embed it using the code from Google as well. So I'll try to show that in a moment here. So then you could have additional instructions in there. Then the next thing here, it's saying content 1 in the bottom, and this is kind of confusing. It's just going to put a button there in the bottom. So what do you want that button to say? You could say, I want students to click on next page. Or you could say, continue to next page. So basically, this is just a control button. That's what this content 1 is. Of course, you can link to different pages and so on. You could say there lecture 2, and then students click on it, it takes them to lecture 2. Then this item here right below it, it's saying jump. It's saying, where do you want to jump? When the student clicks on continue to next page, what do you want the computer to do? So you say, I want them to move to the next page. Or you could have it then move to a specific page within your lesson. So typically, you just choose next page. So these are the two most common options here. Now you have also content 2, 3, and 4. This is pretty much more to confuse you. I'll just ignore those for now. They are a little bit more advanced, but it's for more buttons at the bottom of the page. So then we click on Save Page here. And at this point, we have configured the first part of the lesson. Or we have configured the lesson with just one page of content. And to review it, you can go here under Review, and this is how it will show up. So it's the students will click on it, it will bring them up to this page. They will not have these buttons here, edit and all that stuff. Actually, let me demonstrate what it looks from the real student's point of view. So the student will go to the lesson, they'll see this. These directions, they have an image here. Of course, they don't go together here at this point, but they have access to the PowerPoint. They can click on it and download it. And then they can view the YouTube video. By simply clicking on it, it will be streamed from this page. And then the students will click, this is that button, the content button that we looked at earlier. They'll have a button for continue to next page. And at this point, it's saying that you have reached the end of the lesson and so on and so on. So let's go back here to our configuration in our course page. And now let's say we want to edit this page. So one of the options is here on the top right, it says Edit Page Contents. Or there is also this Edit button here for editing the whole lesson. Edit Page Contents, it's going to allow us to edit only this specific page that we are working on or looking at. So we click on Edit Page Contents, and now we can tinker more with this page if we wanted to. So let's say I don't like that image there anymore, and I want to leave just the PowerPoint, and I want to leave the YouTube video. Then click on Save Page, and it's updated and live and ready to go. Now, the next thing that you can do is that you can go into this lesson and add additional items to it. So you can add a short quiz. So let's learn how to add a short assessment quiz to this lesson. It will be all bundled as part of the lesson, not as a separate entity like we discussed earlier in quizzes. So to add a short assessment quiz for this lesson, we can click here under Edit, the Edit tab here, and now it's displaying that we have already one page for this lesson. Now we want to add a new page. Now at this point it's asking us, well, what kind of page do you want to add? We want to choose a question. It's going to be some kind of form of assessment. So we click on Question, and then it will ask us what type of question we want to ask or utilize. And typically you would want to use true and false multiple choice, and also you can have these other types as well, such as essay questions as another common one. So let's learn first about multiple choice. We click on Add a Question page after we choose multiple choice. And now it's going to give us the choices or the entry to create the multiple choice questions. So we say computers. We type the title. That'll be the title for the students to see and also for the computer to record it, but then we need to copy and paste the question. This is what the student will actually see as part of the question. Then it's asking us, well, what's option 1? So we say a computer is any device that performs the following functions. So we say accepts input. And then you say, okay, if the student chose that answer, you could give them an automated response. And this is, by the way, highly recommended that you do when you're configuring those quizzes. So you could say, that is correct. However, I'm going to copy this. And then we are saying here, if the student chooses this option A here, or this answer, what do we want it to do? We are saying, okay, jump to the next page. But then, do we want to give them a grade for it, like a score for it? In this case, we'd say, no, that's not the correct answer because there are more pieces for it in order to, this is only one piece of the puzzle for a computer. So then we said processes data. That's option 2. So that's, again, part of a multiple choice question. And then you could give them some kind of instant feedback as soon as they choose this option. This is what will show up, and you can customize that. Now it says here jump to. You always want to make sure that it jumps to the next page. And at this point, there is no option to make that the default. But you need to make sure that as soon as the student chooses this option, you want them to be able to move forward to the next page in the lesson. As far as the score, if this were the right answer, we'd give them a 1 here, or some kind of score. Now, this is still not the right answer. Now, the next option here is stores data. And you give them some feedback, and then you say next page, and still they don't get this is not the correct answer. And then answer number 4. You give them some feedback, and you say it's next page. Again, this is very important, and there's still no score here. Now, we need one more option here. It's not going to be just 4 questions here, but we need to add an additional option. So what we need to do here, and this is derived from the lesson configuration. So we need another choice because my multiple choice is going to have 5 choices. So I'm going to click on Save Page here, and we need to tinker with the lesson configuration for just a second here. We're going to go here under the Edit Settings. And if you're not going to have more than 4 answers for your multiple choice, you don't need to worry about this. You can skip the next minute here. We'll go here under Edit Settings for the lesson. And this is, by the way, how you can change the settings for your lesson. And if we go here under number of answers, we want to change this to 5. And go back, save and display. And then we want to go and edit that question that we created earlier. So we click here on the Edit tab. And then we click here on multiple choice question, and we want to tweak it or change it. So we want to click on this gear icon to configure it and edit it. And then basically we go back to add answer number 5. So answer number 3, it's this one, stores data. Answer number 4, and then option number 5 is and you could say that is correct. And then we click here under next page, and then we choose the score here. The score can be anything higher than 0, so you could make it 5 points depending on how difficult the question is. So one of the questions could be 5 points, another one could be 2 points, another one can be 15 points. Now those will be calculated against the total for that lesson. So if you set in the lesson configuration it's going to be graded against 100 points, then if this is 10 points, that's going to be 10% of this lesson. If it were 5 points, that would be 5%. So the percentage here would be against the score for that lesson. Then we click on Save Page, and at this point we have 2 pages to our lesson. To preview it, you can click here on Preview, and the student will see the first page here, have to watch the video and so on. Then they have to continue to the next page, and then they have to take this short quiz. And then press Submit. As soon as they press Submit, they'll get the feedback that is correct, and so on, and they'll continue. Now, let's learn also how to add a content page or a page for an essay question in the lesson, because you can add more than, actually let's learn about true and false questions. So we go here under Add a New Page under the Edit tab for the lesson, and then we choose another question here, and then we'll say true and false. Add a question page. We give it a title. So here for correct response we put true, and if they choose a true option here, the true response or the correct response, this is what you can put as feedback, automated feedback. And if they choose the correct answer, also this is how many points you're going to give them. Make sure that this says next page, and then if they choose the wrong answer, which would be false, then you can give them feedback automated, and then also you can choose the path here, so you always need to make sure that it's the next page. And then if they choose the wrong answer, they will get a 0 for this question. So then we click on Save Page, and then so far the lesson has 3 pages. Now in lessons you can also do and add a page which would have an essay question, and also you are presenting content at the same time. So the way you do that is by clicking on Add a New Page, and then choose Question, and then you could say here, I want to create an essay question. Add a new question page, and then at this point we'll be able to give it a name here. And then in here you could put all kinds of directions. So you basically could put all the content that we presented on the first page, you could post it in an essay question, provided you want them to answer an essay question. So you put basically the directions in there, link to PowerPoint like we did earlier. You could put a link to a YouTube video if you want them to watch the YouTube video. And then you could say, before proceeding any further, and you could of course make this bold and formatted with different colors and all that type of stuff. And then we are saying here that when we grade this, by the way, we have to grade this usually. So let's say we're going to grade it against 15 points. Then we click on Save Page. So that'll be the score for grading for this part of the activity. Now, so far we have 4 pages to our lesson. By the way, most faculty, they would use only this last option that I showed here, which would look something like this. Basically, the student clicks on the lesson, you present the directions for it, the student has to respond to it, and so on. Or it would look under the preview option here. It would look like this. That's the last page. Actually, that's the first page. Then they come to the next page, which would be the quiz. Then they answer another short quiz here. And then this is the last page where you're presenting the content and the student has to type an answer here and then submit it. So that's basically how it will work, and this is how it will look for the students. So the student basically will go into the course. And of course the video here is getting a little longer, but I think it's worth seeing what the effects are after all this work. The student will click on the lesson, they'll see the first option, they'll click on next, they'll take a short quiz, so we'll give them feedback, and then this is the last part where they will watch a video. Again, like I mentioned earlier, most faculty just present the content and ask an essay question directly from here. And of course, the student will type all of that. Now the question is, how do you check the grades and how do you actually grade those essays? So this would be the other part for this tutorial. So you as the instructor, you'd go back into your lesson, into your course, and let's say you want to see a report of what's happening and who viewed the lesson and who answered the questions and what the scores were and all that type of thing. So you go into the lesson itself, and then I don't want to go to the last page I saw, I want to go to the very beginning. And then you go and preview the lesson. You have these options here. You can preview it, basically see what the students see, edit the lesson, but here are a couple other options. There's the reports option, where you can see a report of all that the students did. It tells you how long they spent on the lesson and what score they got in that specific lesson. And it'll give you a listing of all the students in this course. Of course, at this point I have only a couple of students here and only one of them has taken it. Now the other thing that you can do here is you can view detailed statistics, and also you can go in and grade the essays. So to grade the essays, usually this has to be done manually, of course. You'll have a listing of all the students with all of these responses. Sometimes students may go more than once to take the lesson, and therefore you have to grade each one of them as well. So in our case here, we want to grade this. The easiest is to right-click on each essay and then click on Open Link in New Tab. Once you open it in New Tab, you'll view their response. So it says here, my answer. And then you have a box here to put your comments, and also you have an option to grade this. If you remember, we gave it 15 points, so the highest points, it gives you a drop down of that number for this specific question. So you give it a score here, save changes, and then go back to your lesson. Now, after you grade those, you can also email all the students those graded essay questions, and they will get the feedback that you provided for them. So I strongly suggest you can email individual students directly from this link next to their item, or you can click on email all essays and it will email it to all of them. Now in this case, if we go here to reports, if you noticed earlier, the score earlier, it was 33.33 because we had not graded yet the essay question. Now notice once we graded the essay question, they have a 50% score, and that score was automatically updated. Now those grades, they trickle down to the grade book. So if we go here to our test course and we go to the grades. Now for this lesson, that will show up also in the gradebook. So here it is, lesson 1, and that's the grade that this student received. So that's how lessons work. I hope it was clear enough to potentially make sense of it and try it and experiment with it. But it's a powerful feature that you can utilize more effectively for your courses. In this next session, I'm going to demonstrate how to contact students in the course, basically how to send an alert to all the students in your course. Traditionally, faculty would go to under participants and send an email from there and so on. However, the easiest way for each course is to use the news forum over here in the very top of the course. So you could even rename this and to say, instead of news forum, you can click on this little pencil after you turn editing on in the course, and you could just call this course announcements. And then simply hit enter. And you just tell the students that for all the course announcements, they'll be posted on the top of the course. Then to send an alert to the students, you can do it a couple ways. You can click on the course announcements item here or on the news forum item, and then click on add a new topic. You just click on and then type the message. And basically you just add the details as to whatever your message is, or class cancel and so on. And then you could add attachments if you wanted to, and then you can click on mail now. Then you post it to the forum, and basically what this will do is it'll keep track of all the announcements that you sent throughout the semester to the students, as well as an email will go out to the students in the course. And the email will go out within 30 minutes maximum. So again, that is the advantage of using this, is that the system keeps a copy of this message or of this alert that you send to the students or this announcement, and also they'll get an email with it. So now if we go back here to the course page, the other option to send an alert is by going to, by the way, using the same module, by going here under latest news, this block, most likely it's lower down in your page, and you can click on add a new topic and pretty much submit something similar to that. Once that is added, it will show up in the course announcements area or the news forum area, and also it will show up in the latest news block here on the course page. So that's how you contact the students in your course. In this next session, I'm going to demonstrate how to add a live chat in your course for a specific week. There are times where you need to collaborate with the students, particularly if it's an online course, you want to have a discussion, a live discussion with them. And in this part of it, I'll be demonstrating how to do just a chat. It's not using cameras and that type of stuff. So to add a live chat for a specific week, you just go under add an activity or a resource, and then you go under the chat option here, and then you click on add. The next thing you do is you give it a name, and then you could put a description to explain to students as to what has to be done and so on. You can post the time in there as well, and then display this description on the course page. Then under the chat sessions, you can specify as to when the next chat time is going to be. It needs to be accurate, of course, otherwise the students will not be able to get onto the course. And then you can pretty much leave all these alone and basically save and return to the course. When it's time for the chat, for the live chat to take place, the students will click on it, and they will click here to enter the chat now. Once they click there, then There will be a listing of all the students on the right-hand side that are in that part of that chat. And then you'll post your answers here, so you'll have a discussion by simply pressing send. So the thread will be just flowing live at this point. You can change the themes as well to different types of look and feel to it if you prefer. So that's how you configure a chat in your course. Of course, students need to be present live at that point. Students also can view the past live chat sessions, and they'll be able to go into them and view the discussion of what took place. So all the discussion will be seen by what happened in the course. Another important component that you can utilize in your course is live sessions with your students, and this would come in handy particularly in online courses. So to add an online session, and by the way, this is an add-on to eLearning or to Moodle. Here it's called Big Blue Button. So what you can do is you can add an activity called Big Blue Button and then click on Add. You give it a name for this virtual classroom. It's also important to put the time that you are going to meet with the students so that they all show up at the same time zone that you expect them to show up. You can put a welcome message here, and now all users will be viewers, and you as the teacher, you'll be the moderator. However, you can change this to make the students as moderators automatically as well. However, be cautious with that, because they'll be able to start the chat room without you being there. You can also specify the times when the chat will open and it will be closed automatically, but keep track of the dates and so on when you teach the course again. Now the other thing that you can do is you can choose to record this session and you can give it a name. Now, by the way, to record it will not record it automatically. You have to push the record button when you're ready to while you're in the live session. And then you can leave these other options alone there and just click on Save and Return to the course. Now, when it's time for you to meet with the students live, and when it's time for the students to be a part of this live web conference, they'll be simply clicking on it. So you'll all be simply clicking on it, and then it's going to open up the software for the live session. So this is integrated. It's not part of Moodle, but it's an add-on that is fairly easy to configure. And by the way, it's free. Then you choose to enable the microphone, and the student will choose the microphone or whether they want to just listen. And at this point, for the sake of me recording with my microphone and using to share with this, it will not particularly work very well. I'm not going to enable it at this point. Now, the students that have joined the session, they will show up in this list here on the left-hand side, and you'll be able to click on their name here and make them presenters if need be. Their web cameras will show up on this bottom right corner here, and by the way, you can resize these blocks if you needed to, or make it full screen and maximize it. Now, in this middle section here, it gives you directions as to how to use this software, and I'd suggest that you kind of follow these links to these videos. But basically, this is the area where you can post a document or post something. Like this is your whiteboard area, basically, for the students. You can click on Next Slide here if you needed to, and utilize this to write on this screen, and this will be broadcast to all students, including your video and your audio. Now notice you can use these shapes and so on here, the pencil to write on this screen, and if you have a tablet PC, it might even be easier for you. Other things, of course, you can change the colors and all kinds of other options here as well. Now, when you go to present in your course, you need to enable the microphone from here on the left under Share Your Microphone, and it will come up with this wizard. And of course, you choose to use the microphone. And then if you wanted to share the camera, you just click on this next icon here, choose Share Webcam, and you'd need to allow it. And then it's going to give you a preview of your camera, and then you'll just click on Start Sharing when you're ready to do that. So you need to choose Allow here. If you don't choose Allow, it's not going to allow the camera to be broadcast to the students. The other thing here is this is the button for starting the recording for this session. By the way, the recordings will not be immediately available for you or for the students. Usually it's about next day that it's processed, and it happens automatically behind the scenes for that processing of the video. The other thing that you can do is you can share your complete desktop, and this would require that you have Java installed on your computer. Most computers do and don't nowadays because it's so vulnerable that most browsers are disabling it, but it requires Java to work on your computer, and you can test it from down here in the bottom. So on the right hand side, you'll always have students potentially that for one reason or another their microphone or camera is not working. This is where they can post questions, and you can post responses back to the students using this chat area here on the right hand side. So basically this tool, it's incorporating chat, video, audio, and also presentation capabilities all into one. For those of you that are teaching online, there is also another account that we have with AnyMeeting, and just check with the technology services for getting access to using that as well as an option. So that's how it would work. Now to get out of this area, we just simply click on Log Out. By the way, to type in the chat area here, you just type right here and hit enter, and it'll post it for the students. Of course, you can change the font if you needed to under options to make that larger so you can see what's happening in the chat room. So if I were to type now, notice everything is larger. To exit the system, to close from the conference session, you click on Exit or Log Out here in the top right, and that'll take you back to the course page. The nice thing about this system is that everything is integrated. The students to have another account, everything is in one place. Now, the next day, when it comes time for you to post a recording, what you have to do is, because the recording will not show up automatically, you have to click on Add a Resource or Activity, and you have to scroll down here and choose to post big blue button recording. You click on Add, and then you'll give it a name. Of course, a more meaningful name. Then you'd click on Save and Display, and then you'll pick the recording from here. So it will actually be listed in here the next day after it's been produced and packaged. So that's how the live conferencing works. It can be used for on-site classes or online classes as well. In this next session, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure groups in your course, to use those groups for specific assignments throughout the course. So to configure the groups, we go here under Administration in our course, and then we go under Users. Then we go under Groups, and then we first have to define how many groups we're going to have in the course and give it a name for each group. Click here on Create Group, and we're going to create, to keep it simple, just Group A, and then later Group B. So we just give it a name, click on Save Changes. Don't worry about other settings unless you want to tinker too much with it. Then we create the next group as well, and we'll call this Group B. Next, what we need to do is we click on Group A here, and we need to add the members to the group. Typically, in this case, I don't have that many students because it's a test course here, but typically you want to keep the groups no less than 3 students and ideally 4 to 5 in each group. So now I'm going to add the students. So you can click on each student, Or you can even hold down the control key and select more than one student and add them to the left by clicking on the add button here. Then once we are finished with group 1, we go back to groups here, and then we add the students to group B. So we click on group B here, add users to group B, and then I'm just going to pick a couple other students here. I'm holding down the control key here and selecting multiple ones, or you can do them one at a time. And now we scroll down and we go back to groups. My next suggestion here is to actually verify that the students belong in group A are in group A and group B students are in group B. Now, of course, I have some overlapping here, which you don't want in your courses. The next thing that you want to do, by the way, if you wanted to modify it, you just click on Add Remove Users, and you can take one out from the left to remove it and move it to the right here, or to add it, you just click on the right and then move it to the left. So now we are ready. Our class has been split into groups, and now it's time for us to go into the actual assignments and tell the assignment that it's going to be a group project. So you can do it either when you create a new assignment and define it that it's going to use groups, or you can use an existing assignment and just change it so it's going to be utilizing groups. Now, you can look at and review the video on how to create an assignment. I'm not going to go through that at this point, but to change this assignment, you can either click here on Edit and choose Edit Settings, or open up the assignment and then click on Edit Settings under Administration. By the way, this option here, Edit Settings, works for pretty much any activity in Moodle. So we click here on Edit Settings, and then we scroll all the way toward the bottom here. We have to come back a couple times here to this assignment to tweak it. So we go here to the bottom, and under Grade, we need to first tell the system that we are going to use. Actually, it's under Common Modules. We are going to use groups in the course. So we're going to use separate groups. So we're going to tell it that it's going to use separate groups first. We're going to save and display it. And that was under Common Modules again. Then we go back into Edit Settings, and then we need to go here under the Group Submission Settings, and we need to change this to require group to make submission. So if you're not sure what this does, you can click on the question mark here, and it says, if enabled, users who are not members of a group will be unable to make submissions. So basically that leaves, if they're not part of a group, they can't submit anything. That's what that option is. And then we click here on Save and Display. Now, we just told the system that this is going to be a group project. Now, when it's time to grade this project and the assignment has come in, and as far as grading, you can review the video on grading the assignments. Now you can click here under View Add All Submissions, and what you can do is to go and grade here. Let's say I want to go and grade this assignment submitted by the Karen student, but he's part of one of the groups here. Now once I grade this, notice there will be an option here. Now notice I was looking there for the option to submit the grade for all students at the same time. Now since we reused an existing assignment, that option was not there. So let's very quickly go back to the course here, and we are going to configure an assignment, a new assignment from scratch here. So we're going to go here under Add a New Activity, choose Assignment, and then we're going to call it Paper. Called Group Paper. We can give a description, can put the due dates and so on. Remember to reference the previous video there on that. And then we go back here under Group Submission Settings, and this is where we can tell that the students need to submit in groups. And then require group to make a submission. We say yes. Well, we don't want to say yes. If they're not a member of a group, then they can't submit. And then grouping for student groups. So it's going to use, basically if we leave this to none, this is going to use the default groups in the course. Then we go here under, of course, the grade. We can leave that and you choose a category and all that type of stuff. But then under common modules, this is where you say that it's going to be separate groups. So again, there were two settings that we had to customize here for the group mode. Under group submission mode, we choose the yes here for all the groups. And then under the common module settings, I wish they would have called this something else, then we change the group mode from here to separate groups. Then we click on Save and Display, and at this point the students will submit the work on the assignment and they will submit it in separate groups. Now, to grade it, you'll go under the View Grade All Submissions, and you can review the grading, how you do grading at another point in another video that I have done. And then you go here under the grade. Notice it tells us the different groups that the student is part of. And now when I grade this paper, and I can put comments and feedback and so on, you can apply the grades to the entire group. So this is key, and this is very helpful for you to even post the grades for your course or for this specific assignment. The students submit it once for that whole group, you grade it once, it applies the grade to all the students, and then it will notify all the students in the course, or in the group in that case. Then you click on Save and Show Next, and you'll be grading the next paper. So that was basically using groups in a regular assignment. You can also use groups in forums. So what you can do here is, if we go here under the test course, I'm going to leave this page without submitting those grades, and then you can go here under the existing forum and you can customize it and tell it it's going to be in separate groups, or you can create a new forum and specify that it's going to be utilized in groups. So to use an existing forum, we can simply open it up and then change the settings for that forum. So we click here on Edit Settings and then scroll down here under Common Module Settings and choose Group Mode. It's going to be separate groups. And then click on Save and Display. And then here, notice now it has changed to Group A and Group B. So what you can do is, when you post something for your students, you can now post it to all the students, to all the groups. So this would be a new discussion topic. And notice the option here is to post to all groups in the bottom. Or you can post separate types of questions to separate groups, and then they will work on their own with their groups. Now notice this is a new option here. So if you're posting to all the students, all participants in the course, you need to also make sure you check this option, and this is new, to post a copy to all the groups in the course. Because by default, and this was a problem in previous releases, it was that if you had separate groups, you had to post separately to each group. Now in this release, you can just simply check this item right here and then click on Post to the forum, and then each group will have the same post but yet work independently. So that's somehow or somewhat how this works, and hopefully it makes sense. It's easy for you to implement and utilize in your courses, to utilize groups, because it's a good tool to utilize in your courses, as you know. In this session, I'm going to briefly outline just one of the tools that is very powerful in e-learning that will make and speed up the process for creating and working on your courses, and that is the duplicate feature. So as we can see here, we spent quite a bit of time in designing the resources for week 1 and the various assignments and so on. So here I have, for example, group paper, and this has been defined to use separate groups and all that type of stuff for grading and other parameters. So one of the things is that instead of me having to create another assignment from scratch with all the parameters and all that type of stuff, I can simply use a duplicate feature, and that item will be duplicated, and also I can go in and then tweak just a couple of the settings to make use of it for my next section here. So to use that feature, all we do is turn editing on in the course, and then click, and to turn editing on, just in case you're watching just this video separately, you click here on the top right under turn editing on. Then we go here to the item, and then we click on the drop down and choose duplicate. Then this item will be exactly the same name. Now we can rename this and call it group paper number 2 or whatever you want to call it. And notice I clicked on the pencil here. And then this is inheriting all the properties that it had from before. So now what we can do is we can simply open it up, and we can just go and change a couple of the things here. So if you click here under Edit Settings, we can just go and change the description and add some more details to it. We can change potentially the due dates, but pretty much leave everything else alone unless you want to change something. So once it's changed, then that was just as easy as that to utilize and post the assignments for your students. So that was using just the assignment option. You can utilize this same tool for duplicating items for pretty much anything, whether, and particularly you utilize it maybe for forums. So you're going to have on week 2, you're going to have a forum. Well, we can duplicate this and then just change the wording for that content. So that forum has groups and all that stuff. So I can just duplicate it and then simply drag it down here, let's say to week 2, rename it. By the way, that's how you move stuff from one week to the other. Simply drag them over. And then here, again, the same way, I can go and change the properties for it, like for the discussion here. So just click on Edit Settings and tweak this the way you want. And then we click on Save and Return to the course. So that was a duplicate feature. Now, since I'm here at this point as well, I'll just show briefly, or for emphasis, another trick here is that you can prepare the course ahead of time for your students, and you can hide complete sections of the course. And the way you hide the complete sections of the course is by clicking on this little icon right here, the Hide Topic. That goes and hides everything within this block. To unhide it, simply click on it again, and it will unhide all the items. Make sure that nothing is grayed out, because that will not be available to the students. Also, keep in mind that you can switch the role to the student role to see what the students see. Another tool that you can utilize here, and this is more like tips and tricks at this point for our tutorial, is that you can highlight a specific topic for a specific week. Let's say now we have moved to week 2, and I want to kind of show the students, okay, we are in week 2, we are actively working on week 2. You can click on this light bulb icon here, and you can highlight this topic. So basically it puts a different color to this block, and then as you move from one topic to the other, of course you'll be going down, you can enable that and switch from one to the other. So that's another key option to utilize in your courses. In this next session, I'm going to demonstrate how to use advanced grading or use rubrics in your assignments. Using rubrics, of course, it's a very powerful feature, and it enhances the student learning. The students also get to know exactly what's going to be required and also how you're going to be grading the assignments, as well as it helps you as the instructor in identifying as to what areas to look for in your grading when you're grading specific papers. So what we want to do is we want to create a rubric, and just to give an idea as to what it looks like, for example, I have here a rubric. This is computer class, of course, but I have here, I'm going to grade this assignment based on formatting. It has multiple criteria, then basic calculations in this Excel spreadsheet, and then all kinds of other various criteria and options. So in this case, the way it works is that instead of you having to put a score like a 92 out of 100 or whatever else there, you can simply click on these boxes as you are reviewing the paper, and then the computer will calculate it correctly. So if I chose that, it will update the grade and customize it and tweak it and so on. So basically the student gets to know what the criteria is, and what to do specifically within that criteria. Now, of course, there are more advanced rubrics out there, but this is more for my type of assignment that I was giving to the students. Now, in your case, here's how you create the rubric. You can use an existing paper that you're going to be doing, or you can create a new assignment. It's pretty much the same idea. So if we have the assignment here and we click here under, click on Add. Of course, it needs a description. You could put the description here along with just advising the students what they have to do and the requirements and all that type of thing. And then, of course, support files for your assignment and due dates and so on. And then you go here under grade and you say that I'm going to grade this in points, but my grading method, instead of me assigning 92 out of 100 and so on, I'm going to use a rubric for this assignment. So I click here under rubric and then scroll down and pretty much fill out other fields as well. So you can check the other video on designing or defining and configuring assignments for that purpose. And then the next thing that we do is we click on Save and Display. At this point, it will bring up the rubric configuration page, and we can either use an existing rubric that might be in the system or in this course. And in this case, there is nothing for this course. Or you can create a new one. So we can use one from a template. So here's one for computer for the business course. Or if I go back here, I click on Define a new rubric from scratch. So here you could have assignment 1, you could call this. So you could do rubrics for each assignment, or you could do one for your course. Assignment 1. Put some description so you know what it is. And then the next thing that we do here is that we go to the first thing, and this would be our criteria. For example, we could say here, and you could have like poor. The research for the topic, it was poor. And you could say did not find any articles, did not put any journals, and so on. Evidence or whatever. Then we go to the level number 2 for research. And you could say used minimal resources. And then you could say not quite or whatever. You make something up the next level up for the research. As you're evaluating this, you have multiple levels that you're evaluating how they did the research. And then the last one, let's say you want to add another level here, and this would be excellent. And so on. And you could add also different point scales. So for at this level, if they hit this level, you can give them 4 points if you prefer. So this is only one criteria on the topic. The other on the research aspect for this assignment. Now for the next criteria that you would add here, it would be the citations. And you could have different levels as well. This would be basically, did they cite it according to the MLA format, or yes or no, and all that type of thing, depending on what the paper is. And it's best, again, to use descriptive area, so you could have poor or somewhat and so on. So basically the different levels for citing resources. Then you go, and I'm going to leave these empty at this point for the sake of time. And then you go and add another criteria, and you choose so application of learned concepts. You want to make sure the student may be doing everything else correctly, but yet they may not be understanding how that component works or what that paper was about to come to a conclusion or to achieve. So you could say poor and so on and so on. So in any case, we get the point here that you want to add all of these different levels that you are going to assess the students on that paper. So it could be the research of the topic, the citations, the application of the learned concepts, the external resources will be another one, all kinds of different areas that you want to evaluate them, the style of writing and so on. So then the more that you create here, the better it is. The student gets to understand the different areas that you're looking for. Plus, they get penalized less if they missed one small area here. Now, once you scroll down here to the bottom, once we have the rubric ready, we click on Save Rubric and make it ready. Then, the next thing is that it wants some kind of description. It wants us to fill all of these. Or it's saying, delete them. If you're not going to use them, delete them. So in any case, of course, you'd fill those out. So we save this and we make it ready. And it's saying, if you're going to have criteria, you need to have more than one level. So now that the rubric has been configured, now let's say we want to go and grade this assignment. So we click on View Grade All Submissions. And now, when we go to grade this, nothing has been submitted, of course, but let's assume we're going to grade it and a paper was submitted and so on. And you can check the tutorial on how to do grading. But we go here under Grade this assignment on the little check mark. And let's assume the paper came in and so on. Now to grade it, notice you have these buttons. You don't assign points, and you don't have a place to enter the grade. You simply click on those boxes, and then the grade will be, you can put comments as well, and then you simply press Save Changes. Now, based on the boxes that you selected, a grade will be assigned based on the percentage where that fell. So in this case, I got a 8571, a B+, because I missed one of the areas here. So this is more effective. So notice I missed this first area here. So it's powerful and it's effective. We highly encourage the faculty to utilize the rubrics in the course. Now when the student goes in to check this, they'll see something very similar next to their grade in the assignment. So that's how the rubrics work. Now if you have an existing assignment and you want to apply a rubric or create a new rubric to your assignment, your existing assignment, then what you do is that you scroll down here to go to your existing assignment, change some settings to it. So we go here under the assignment, and then we go here under where it says Advanced Grading. And then right now it's configured to use simple direct grading. However, we want to change it to use the rubric. And then it will ask us to create the rubric from scratch for this specific assignment. So that's how the rubrics work, how to apply them to a new assignment, and also how to apply them to an existing assignment. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure and utilize the feedback module in eLearning or Moodle, or basically get post-student surveys to get feedback. So let's assume that in week 2 we are going to post a survey for our students. So we click on add a new activity or resource, and then we choose feedback. Don't confuse it with the survey module. The survey module here, it's a different module, so we want to get feedback from the students. So we click on add, and then we give it a name. Of course, you'd name it Course Survey 1. And you could survey them on whatever you want, of course, but put some kind of description as to what the purpose is and all that type of thing. Then under availability, you could have specific dates and so on. And then how to record the feedback. So typically you might want it anonymous. However, you can choose so that it gives them, it logs who submitted what. Then allow multiple submissions, yes or no. So you typically don't want multiple submissions. Email notification of submissions and that type of thing, and so on. Then also at this step, it's asking us, what do we want to say after they press submit? What do we want to say? Do we want them to display the results for all the students to see, or yes or no? So you could choose, depending on what the questions are, you might want to. Now you could say also a completion message. You could say thank you for, this is basically what will be presented at the very end. And then under common modules, so we're not going to use groups in this case, and then we just simply say save and display. At this point, we just told it what parameters are going to be filled out in the survey, what type of survey, but then now we need to configure the questions for the survey. So we click on save and display, and at this point, this is our overview, the description, the end of the message, and then now we can either utilize templates, like an existing template, and add it to this course. And to utilize a template, you can click on templates, provided there are templates in the system. So here, for example, you have the distance learning third through the course survey, and at the end of the course, you can use these questions. Or you can go back to edit questions and create your own questions for this survey. So, or these feedback. So you could say, I want a short answer, or I want multiple choice, or whatever you want. To basically just click on short answer in this case. Of course, you have better questions than that. Labeling it. And then this is the field width, how wide you want the field to be, and this type of stuff. So then we click on save question. So the text field length, if you're going to use short answer, you need to make that much longer. So at least give them 255 characters to type whatever they want. Then the required, whether you want this required or not. And also you determine where it's going to be, whether it's going to be question 1, 2, 3, or whatever. So then we click on save question. And that's the first question. Then you click on add another question, and you choose short text answer or whatever, label or whatever. So usually it would be multiple choice or true and false questions that you'll be utilizing in your course. True and false multiple choice, that look like this. You can choose how you want them to be displayed, horizontally or vertically. You can play with those options. Then when it's time for you to preview it, you can go here under overview, and students will have this option for answer the questions after they get to it. So you might want to put directions in here, what to click on, and it will look something similar to this. Now, of course, if you used multiple choice, true and false, you'll have charts created as well. And to analyze the results, the way you do that is by going to the course, and you find your survey, and then you simply can go and click on the analysis tab here. So you click on analysis, and you'll have even a chart, bar charts of all the responses within the course. So basically, when it's submitted, depending on what type of survey, how you configured it and all that type of thing, it will be showing up something very similar to this when the answers are compiled. So that's using the feedback module in eLearning. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to back up grades in eLearning. So throughout the semester, as you're keeping track of assignments and grades in eLearning, it is also important to keep a copy of those grades offline. Particularly, you want to do this step at the end of each semester to keep a record of those grades for accreditation purposes or for evaluation of the courses years down the road. So the way you back up the grades is fairly simple. You go to the course itself, and then you go under grades here, you click on grades. And in my case here, I do not have a lot of grades, but at least you get the idea. So now here's a listing of all the students with all their grades for this specific course. Then what you do is you click here under the grade report, you click on export, and notice it's in both places here. You click on export, and then we want to download those grades in Excel format. So notice it's picking everything up automatically, so leave everything alone basically. And under format options you can choose what type of grade to export. My suggestion would be that you export at least the real grade, which would be the actual score that they got in that paper, and also at some point maybe the letter grade as well. So you might have to run this process twice. So basically, let's go here and click on download, and then it's going to ask me where do I want to save those. Of course, save them somewhere where it's safe and secure and so on, because student grades and the FERPA and all that type of thing, so keep that in mind. I'm going to save them on the desktop here because it's nothing valuable, and it's downloaded. And now if I click to open it in Excel, it will display all the student grades, and this is the actual values that the students scored in the course. Notice it's not giving me the grade letters and so on. One thing before you go any further, before you save this file finally, is to delete the student ID number, and just select the column here and press delete. And then save it. That is for minimizing the FERPA requirements there. So that's basically downloading the grades, and you keep a copy of those grades for whatever time and date you may need them. The other thing that you can do, if you go back here to grades, let's say you wanted to download the actual letter grades that they got, you click on export here after you go to grades, and then you scroll down, and you can choose to select them all or none. Under export options, you can choose here to download the letter grade. So you click on the letter here, click on download, it will bring it up in Excel. You can give it a meaningful name, and then open it up, and now you'll have a record of those grades with the actual grade letters. These come in handy because you get to see what they scored for the course total in that semester. So that's how you do it. It's important to do it throughout the semester, and also it's important to do it at the end of every semester to keep a record of these grades for your dean, for your school, and for accreditation purposes. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the process for posting the final grades in self-service. So at the end of each semester, the grades need to be posted, taken from eLearning, and the final grades need to be posted on self-service for faculty. So here's the process. So basically, you go under grades here in your course, and then make sure that the grades in this course, that no students have missing grades. And I would suggest that you put a 0 if a student is missing any grade, any wherever, if they deserve it, of course. You put a 0 throughout the course here to make sure that the grade book is going to be up to date, because by default, any missing grades are not counted as a penalty for the students. So make sure that there are no missing grades or they got a 0. It's best to give them a 0 when they have missed the work, and that will also make them do the work or do something about the 0 that they got. So let's assume now that these are going to be the final grades. We have configured the gradebook correctly. If you're not sure whether you did it, reference the video on configuring the gradebook. You have set up the grade letters correctly. Check the video for that as well if you need to. But let's assume that these are the final grades. So what you do is you take note of these grades from here, and then you go and enter the grades in self-service. Notice you have this link here for self-service and submit final grades. So we need to log in here to self-service, and then we log in. Once we log in, you'll have access to the courses that you're teaching. For example, you're teaching Summer 2015. You'll click here under the course, and then we go down. Now these are all the student names, and now we have the final grades for this course. Now typically in this case it says nothing posted, but we need to go here under my grade. It will be under the final area, so you have to do this at midterm and also at final grades. For midterm, it's only the failing grades. In this case, I do not have a drop down here for the final grades, but usually there would be drop downs like this in this area. So then we post the grade in there, whatever they got or deserved, and then press save. Now, if you are submitting the final grades, you'll have the save button here and the save final. So when you choose save final, that means that these grades have been finalized and they are being submitted, and they can no longer be changed, tweaked, or adjusted. So in that case, if you submitted them and you need to change something, you need to contact the registrar's office. So that's how it will work. Sorry, I cannot configure it or explain it or show it exactly what it would look like, because I don't have access to a course that will be live at this point in time to submit them. So then you click on Submit Final, and that's how you post the final grades. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to import the content from a course that you taught previously to a new semester, to a new course that you're teaching again another semester. So let's suppose that I have this course, eLearning 101, that I taught, let's say, in fall 2016. Of course, I'm working a little bit in the future here. But and now let's assume that it's fall 2017, and I'm teaching this course again, and I don't want all this work to go in vain, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel here, so I want to import this content to my new course that I'm teaching the new semester. So the question is, how do I go about it? Well, the way you do it is that you go to your new course. So I'm going to go here under Dashboard or to the eLearning homepage, however you get to your main course there. And I'm going to choose to show all my courses here in this case. So basically find my new course that I'm teaching. And my new course, it's very creative here, it's called New Course. That's to emphasize that we need to go to the new course that we are teaching, to the blank one. And then once we go to the blank course or to our new course, we want to go and import the content from the old one. So what we do is we go here under Administration, and then we click on Import. Under Import, then we go and find the course that we taught previously. So if you remember, our previous course was called Test Course. So we click on the test course here, and then we click on Continue. Now, if your course doesn't show up in this list, or this list is too long and it's just not there, you can search by the course code. So you could do, let's say, edu_101. And now, of course, that depends on how your system is set up, but here at Cairn, we use the 3-letter code _101. So edu, in this case, _101, or whatever it is, the course code. Then you click on Search, and then find the course that you're looking for. Make sure it's the right one, though, because once you import it, it's kind of difficult to get rid of all the content that you just brought over. So then you click on Continue here, and the next step is to tell the system what do you want to bring over. Now in this case, I want to bring over everything. So leave everything alone and just click on Next. If you're sure that it's everything without confirming any stuff, you can click to jump to the final step, but we're going to go slowly here. We'll click on Next. Then it's going to ask us, do we want to leave anything over in the old course, not bring it over? So in this case, I don't really need the syllabus from the old course, and if I don't need something else, I can simply uncheck it and not bring it over. So let's say I don't want the live chat and so on. So then you can check or uncheck other items in the course and scroll all the way to the bottom and then click on Next. And now it's confirming. It's basically giving us one more chance to review what we want and what we don't. And then scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you click on Perform Import. Then it will bring at this stage, it will take a few seconds depending on how big your course is, and it will bring everything over exactly how it was in the semester that you taught it previously, including the gradebook configuration and the order of the items and all that type of stuff. So at this stage, just be patient, don't cancel it because it will break it. So once you import the course, you click on continue. And at this point, notice it has everything exactly, it just says new course here. It has everything exactly how we had it in the previous class. So now at this point, we can tweak things, we can change stuff, we can delete other items and so on and tweak them. To hide it from students, of course, you can just click on the hide block once you tweak it or as you're working on it. By the way, we suggest that you hide any upcoming content in your course. So let's assume that your course is ready for the whole semester. There's no need to display all 13 or 16 weeks of content ahead of time. You can just display as you go. You display the information as you go through the semester. So let's say you're in week 3, you have the first 2 weeks displayed, but then the third week and on, you keep it hidden. So at this point, it's all good to go, and you can, like I said, you can customize it the way you want and so on. One cautious, and this is what I wanted to say, one thing to remember is that when you import a course, if you had due dates in there from previous semesters, all those due dates need to be updated on the various assignments to reflect the new dates, because there's nothing more frustrating from the students, other than getting an F for an assignment, I guess, to have an assignment say that it's past due when it's not even time yet to work on it. So the quickest way to check for due dates for your assignments is by clicking here under Activities, and you click on Assignments, and then you'll be able to see here where it says due date. Notice it says Thursday, the 13th of August. So then you can click on that assignment and tweak the dates in it. Then go back. So far we checked all the assignments in the course. Now you want to go back, and let's say you go to forums and see if you have anything related that is due at a certain time and restrictions related to old dates. In this case, we don't see the times here. Then we go back, and I'll check also the lessons and the quizzes particularly. So basically just go through all of these activities and click on them. Particularly, let's see quizzes. And the quizzes, usually they would have, if we set deadlines and dates, they would be listed in one of the columns in there. So once we make sure that the dates are good to go, then the course is good to go, of course, changing the date wherever we have other references throughout the course. So that's how to import a course, and hopefully it was helpful. In this session, I'm going to demonstrate how to add students or other users to your course and give them various levels of access to your course. There are times where you're teaching an independent study course and a full class on site or online or wherever it may be, and there is a need that you may want to add that independent study student to your actual on-site course. So here's how you add somebody else to your course. You go here under Users, and you choose Enrolled Users. Under Enrolled Users, You'll see all the students in your course, the groups that they belong to, and so on. Now you click here on this button, Enroll Users, and then you search for the student name. So in this case, I want to enroll somebody as a student role in this course. So let's say Sims. So let's say I want to add Hubert here to this course, and now that it found Hubert, I want to add this one. So I click on Enroll, and now Hubert has been added as a student in this course. Then I click on Finish and Enrolling Students, and now Hubert will be listed in here. If I want to also add Hubert to a specific group here, notice if I have groups in the course, click on the icon for groups here, and choose to add him to Group A or Group B. Again, I had to click on the group icon, the two picture thingy here. So that's how you add somebody as a student in your course. However, you can also add somebody as an administrative assistant, so be very careful with this and cautious of this. This was something that typically the IT department used to do, but you can do this also on your own. So you can go here under Enrolled Users, and you can go and choose to add somebody as an administrative assistant role in your course. Now, if somebody is viewing this outside of Cairn, of course, you may not have the administrative assistant role. It depends on what other roles are given permission to you. So you click here on administrative assistant role, and now we go and add, search for the individual that we want to add there to that course. So let's say we choose, so let's say I want to add online learning here for some reason as this account to have administrative assistant access. So make sure assign roles is administrative assistant for only those that need administrative assistant access. Very important. You don't want to give a student access to view other students' grades. So then I click here on Enroll, and then that administrative assistant will have access to pretty much everything that you have access to as a teacher in the course. They can change things, view the grades, do all kinds of stuff in the course. That's why it's important that you do this correctly. So that's how you add other users, enroll other users in your course on your own. If you have questions, just check with TS, or you're not unsure, or you want TS to do this, Technology Services to do this, just contact us.